Greetings, clobberers and retro blasters out there. Welcome to Wildcard Wednesday night on Clobbering Times, except the wild card, instead of just me sitting around jawing myself to you, good friends and stuff, which I often do. Tonight, I have a special guest, and he is, well, this fantastic gentleman here and I have been friends for longer even than he's had a channel. And he's had one for 10 years. He is in his 10th anniversary. He and my wonderful friend Melinda, of course, his better half, the M&Ms. They were the fantastic Retro Blasters. Tonight with me, my good old buddy, Michael French. Brother, thanks for being here, man.
Thank you for having me. I always like hanging out with you, Mike. I've loved it ever since we met. And whether it's on, a podcast or on your new YouTube channel. And I know I sound like a marketing guy right now, but I don't mean to be. I'd probably been doing this too long. And so I go into like ShamWow voice. But no, like I really always just enjoy hanging out with you. So thanks for having me on.
Brother, so glad to see you. Thank you so much, man. Again, look, one day I guess we should probably try to go back and count, at least try to get an idea how many shows we've done together, but I don't think it's possible. There've been so many.
Mm-hmm.
And anytime we get a chance to do one, because see, look, whether you like to admit it or not, you're a busy man, and I'm not gonna bug you for frivolities and say, hey, just jump on. Come on, man, you got nothing else to do. Come on, go hang out with me. No, I like to have something to talk to you about. Not that this isn't fun just to just get on here and shoot the shite, as they say.
Right.
But it's always good to have a topic because we've done so many. And I go, man, I gotta think. And so I'll be sitting around sometimes and said, I miss Michael. I want to get him on, but I want to have a worthy topic for him. And that's important to me. It may not be a big deal to you, I don't know, but it's important to me to have a worthy topic for you, something that we're both, very interested in and passionate about and love talking about, and can really, because when we do, man, I think we click very well when we got something we really want to talk about. And a little shy of a year ago, we did a countdown list of our of the Marvel, the MCU films from as I'd like to say, my saying worst to first. We did them back to front, and there were at that point 23.
Mm-hmm.
And we went in detail, so that was show where we just did the list. There are, of course, 5 more films. Tonight, it'll be a little bit broader. We'll talk some other things, MCU as well. But what we'll do is we'll go through it. We'll list again. We'll be a little bit quicker about that and talk about other things with regard to the MCU, some things that you have interest in, and things like that, because I know you've been keeping up with it and really going back and looking at it.
Right.
And quick show note before that, tomorrow night, everyone, Clobby's Clubhouse, my wonderful commander, first officer, Commander R.M. Briggs will be with me as always, and our great chief engineer, the great Mark D with the C. We have a lot of fun talking, well, just about everything, Trek, toys, comics, whatever pops in. It's a fun time. And then, of course, we have Saturday Night Star Trek, as always, coming up. We are reviewing all of real Star Trek every Saturday night. This will be number 70. We've been doing it for 70 straight shows. And we are reviewing all of Real Trek 66 through 05 only, the original series, the animated series, original crew films. And we are now just starting the 7th season of Star Trek The Next Generation. We review 4 episodes a night regularly. And we have a great crowd. It's very interactive, and we like to know what you think of the episodes. So Saturday Night Star Trek, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time for anyone who likes to join us. And of course, Monday night, Mark C. Comics Talk. That's when Clobbering Times talks all things comics. Wednesday nights could be it could be a topic or just open. And before we get going, again, I'll throw this at Michael a little bit. Man, dude, and I know know a little bit about comics yourself. What meant to lose the giants of the stature that we lost the past 2 weeks?
Yeah,
Neil Adams, and then one that we kind of knew was coming, George Perez.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have any thoughts on either one of those two, but man, it doesn't get much bigger.
No, it really doesn't.
Gentlemen.
No, it doesn't. And they are 2 out of a handful of artists that in many ways, and I mean this with all the respect and devotion and I can muster, they wallpapered our youth.
Yes.
And, them alongside John Romita, and Garcia Lopez, and
Oh yeah,
um, and there are others in there as well. But those
Sure,
are like the biggies. Like those are the ones that set the new baseline for a long time, and it's why guys like you and I look at Melinda and I had this conversation a few weeks ago. We watched the Batman, the new
hmm
Batman film, and we were talking. We got to this point in the conversation where we were talking about why Hollywood sometimes takes these hard detours with the style and depiction. And I was really referring to how Christopher Nolan tried to be super dark, and then Snyder tried to be darker, and now we've got this movie.
yeah,
And I told Melinda, I said, regardless of how a person feels about it, I said, this thing with Batman, because he's there. Batman is Warner Brothers default mode. He's the one character that they feel like they can truly bank on. Literally, they miss the point on all their other characters, and they try and send them dark as well, and
yeah,
it doesn't work. And it technically, and I'm getting to my point about these artists. That's why guys like you and myself also say, yeah, you guys are getting away with this with Batman right now, but it doesn't mean that it's the way it should be. Like that, just because you guys can take Batman this dark, it doesn't mean that that's how Batman was intended, or how it should be depicted, or why Batman works. Because you and I grew up in a time where it was post Adam West, and I only say Adam West because I love that show, but he was doing a deliberately absurdist
sure. Oh yeah,
socio-political commentary, which is great. It's a brilliant show. I hate it when people think it's dumb, because they're not
very
smart. Yeah, it's a very smart show. But after that, Batman came out of the Silver Age into the Bronze Age and found its balance again. And now we've lost that again. The pendulum has swung so far in another direction that I very much expect the next actor to be cast in a Batman franchise will open the film by setting a bus of school children on fire. Like it's gotten that dark, and it's like, God, guys, like, really?
Yeah.
So and
Yep.
I blame the writers and I blame the studio, and those artists that we've lost to, and I'm not exaggerating when I say we've lost some people that really understood these characters, and I feel they weren't being listened to. When you've got the guy Frank Miller, who wrote the Batman story that has transfixed every douchebag filmmaker for the last 25 years.
Yes, he did.
And he's the one saying, hey guys, that was like, he was in an interview, I guess about a year ago, saying, I didn't really want my story to have this effect on superheroes.
Yeah,
Like, it's
true,
like,
he did.
it's like, maybe you should listen to him. Like, he was anyway.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
And these two gentlemen here are there are not too many left that have a name that are worthy of being mentioned in the same breath with the Kirbys, the Ditkos, the Raymonds, the Eisners, the Kuberts, the Gil Kanes, the people like that. There aren't many of those left, but Neil Adams and George Perez, rest their souls, were two that definitely walk among. They're already in the Clobbering Times comic book creator Hall of Fame. That I of course am the only voter. So
right,
yes, they are in there.
Yeah, and I
want so.
Sorry, I just wanted to point out to Mark D with a C. He says, I liked the new Batman movie, but agree Sick of the Darkness. I want to be clear about something. If you take away the cinematography, some of the writing in that movie was some of the better Batman stuff that we'd gotten in a while from a detective perspective. Like, I liked the detective work. I liked all that stuff in it. I'm not saying everything about the movie's a write-off, but I am saying that when you walk into a Batman film when each subsequent Batman film seems to try and be competing with the last one for how dark we can make the movie, it's getting old. Like
Well,
yeah.
yeah. No, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so.
And interestingly enough, the movies we'll be talking about tonight, at least some of them, and some of their popularity of these 28 films, give or take, quality, is because it doesn't do that. Because most of them, at their best, are more lighthearted and more have a great spirit of adventure that aren't too dark.
Right.
Which is what made them successful for about almost well, not 20 years, but a long time.
Yep.
Well over a decade.
Yep.
The MCU. Some now it's transformed into the MCU now, but it was the MCU for a good while there, and so basic opening thoughts is where not so much where we're at now, just or that too, of course, but you as a viewer of these films. I know you like some of them, just like when we talked about this last year. We're going to talk about it again. Would you consider yourself to be a major MCU fan, or just someone who you kind of take them as you take them on an individual basis?
At first I wasn't plugged into the MCU when it first started. I loved Iron Man, the first Iron Man. I thought that was great. I wasn't aware at the time that the Edward Norton Hulk was considered to be part of it as well. I did not know that. And so for a long time, I had not seen that movie. I've seen it since, obviously I have it now in my collection, but I did not know that. And the Edward Norton Hulk movie.
Okay.
Yeah, gotcha. I wasn't aware they had included that in the MCU.
Okay, I got you. Yes. Sorry.
So then, and again, you let me know if my levels are too low or something.
No,
like
I got
that.
you. Oh, no, I got you good.
But then, when
sound check, everyone. But let me know if you're hearing Michael well, because I don't trust my earphones. That you mentioned it, but go ahead, continue. Sorry.
But yeah, no, Melinda and I started. We didn't catch them in theaters. We tried to go to see First Avenger in the theater, and we just walked out. The movie hadn't started. We walked out because the crowd that was in there was just ridiculous. It was like, okay, because the movie had already been out like 8 weeks. We thought that we were going in on a weeknight to just relax and see, an early evening, right after the matinee of a movie that'd been out a while. And nope, it was like, nope. So we were like, nah. So we got it on disc. We got Thor on disc. We watched them. And I remember at the time liking the Thor movie a little bit more than First Avenger for reasons we've talked about ad nauseum on your show. About
even back when it first came out, we talked about first time we met. We talked about that movie.
Yeah, the good stuff with Captain America: The First Avenger gets better and better every time you rewatch it. For me, the stuff I didn't like doesn't get worse, but it doesn't get better. It's kind of like it's still just kind of like, oh, this thing was so close to greatness for me, and if they just had a different thought on like a few things, it would have been awesome.
Right.
Right. But the good stuff about First Avenger gets better and better every time I watch it. Anyway, I didn't walk away from the MCU, but after those kind of like, we went to see Avengers. We went and saw that in the theater. And I remember saying to Melinda in the theater, right around minute 25, I don't mean of the movie. We were like minute 25 of being on the helicarrier. And I just kind of look over at Melinda and I remember saying, is this it? Is this all we got? Because I remember thinking they're supposed to be looking for this Tesseract. And they've really just been hanging out on this helicarrier the whole time and not really doing much. And then the bad guys came to them. I don't want to get into a whole thing. And Melinda and I have talked about this, the subsequent Marvel films in that phase leading up to Infinity War, they make Avengers a lot better for me on rewatch, because now the characters for me have been developed and they've got interplay and their chemistry is going and they're dialed in. And so Avengers doesn't feel as cookie sheet thin in the plotting as it did back when I saw it the first time.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But see, to me, it was just, I guess I loved it so much at the time because it felt like chapter 12 of a serial. It was rounding up the first 5 films. So that's why I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, my brother's a lifelong comics fan in that respect, like the team books. He read X-Men and Avengers and all that stuff, and so he really loved the Avengers too, you know. And I don't hate it or anything. It's certainly not anywhere near the bottom of my list. It's just more of a where they went after the Avengers is where I think the MCU got really strong there for a while. I thought it was firing on all cylinders, not including Iron Man 3. All right, so let's put that out there, okay? But I can make strong arguments for a lot of the stuff that was happening in that middle period between the Avengers and Infinity War, by and large, with a few shoehorned in missteps, as we all know. Captain Marvel. But anyway, so yeah, like by that point, somebody had convinced me. They said, well, have you been back to the theater after Avengers? And I was like, no. And it was a guy at work, and he looked over at me and he said, you haven't seen The Winter Soldier? And I was like, oh no, I didn't go see that. He reached under his desk and handed me the Blu-ray. He was just like, you got to go home and watch this. So I went home and watched it, and of course, it was awesome. It was a great movie. It is to the MCU what Wrath of Khan for me is to Star Trek, where I can look at a person and go, you need to watch this movie regardless of whether or not you watch another MCU film. This is just a good film on its own. And so yeah, and ever since then I've been staying up to date with everything. So yeah.
And now we're both up to speed. We both have seen, for better or worse, we've seen all 28.
And I've got my list.
Oh, you got your list?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what we'll do then, we did this about a year ago. We'll do it quicker this time, and because we'll talk about other things, perhaps peripheral. In fact, after this, I'll even run down a little bit of the TV version of the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, in that case, I tell you what, why don't we go with your number 28?
Well, that ain't hard.
No.
I mean, like, I was thinking about this the other day.
We could have a tie.
We might. I think we do. So let's visualize for a moment, just as a word picture. Let's visualize all the MCU movies as different rooms in the house where they have the Clue board game. So like every room in this multi-story house could be one of the films from the MCU, right? So the film that I have on my 28 slot, it ain't even in the house. It's the doormat you wipe your feet on before you come in the door. That makes sense. Does that make sense? I don't know if that makes sense or not. Mike, you here?
Sorry about that. I had my mute by accident there.
Oh, no problem.
Yeah, if we're talking about the same film, it sure makes sense.
Yeah. So number 28 is the doormat to this mansion called the MCU, the Eternals.
The Eternals. I'm surprised we have a shocker. Look how shocked everyone is. Everyone, I want to see your shocked face. Of course, we had a fun time reviewing this when it came out last. It seems like forever, right? But it came out last year. I did it for Jack, because a couple days before this, we actually reviewed his 19-issue run on his original Eternals comic that bears zero resemblance to this twerp. Again, you don't even have to talk about it very long. There's not. I mean, look, I can name you a lot of films in the MCU, whatever, that even ones I don't like very much, that I'll go, yeah, but I can pick you a bit out here, and they go, this kind of was okay, and that was kind of all right, because you like to be fair to a film, and you like to go, yeah, I kind of enjoyed this bit, but the rest of it, this is probably one of maybe 2 or 3 where there is absolutely zero that I liked.
Yep.
And almost nothing that I didn't just hate. Of course, staying awake was a challenge as well.
Oh, yeah.
This is horrible. I mean, there is absolutely no redeeming qualities. This is one of the worst friggin' movies that I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's Melinda and I slogged our way through it because we didn't see it in the theater. What we do is we sort of save them up sometimes, and then we end up just buying a bunch that we didn't see on disc and then just watching them over a period of a few nights, which again, people be like, why would you buy the disc for this? It's like, well, one, I refuse to pay into Disney Plus, so I don't have instant access to it. Two, at least then I'm getting something for my money, even if it's a plastic case with a wrapper on it and a drink coaster that I can use later. But at least I have something. So beyond that, we watched it, and like you're talking about,
man,
poorly written, boring,
stupid idea. Everything about the concept is stupid. Everything is dumb.
Stupid, just so stupid. And the characters aren't even written in a way to try to sell the stupid idea. Like the characters are all over the place emotionally, motivationally. They don't lead or track. Like we could do 17 Clobberin' Time episodes trying to unravel the problems with the Eternals, and we still wouldn't have enough show to untangle it. It just bad.
It's a special kind of bad. I'm almost actually impressed with it that they could do something this horrendous. I can't. Again, it is a disgrace to the good name of Kirby. And you know what? I might have had the tiniest. They had to put his name as sole creator. Big deal.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing because they had to. They didn't have any choice. But they did not try one little bit, not one iota, not one scintilla. Did they try to do anything like a little Kirby, like a nod or anything? Which I guess is a good thing, really, when you think about it. But like Thor Ragnarok, which I have a lot of problems with. There's some nice bits where they use Kirby art and Kirby designs and Kirby squiggles and all this kind of stuff. They don't even not one homage to a comic in a film that wouldn't exist without him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, of course, that's almost every film. What am I saying? None of their films would exist without him. But this was like a sole creation that they couldn't give anyone else credit for but him. It's a disgrace. So that's enough for number 28. What about 27?
Black Widow.
Wow, we don't have a tie this time.
Yeah,
so there we go.
Mm-hmm. Black Widow is okay. So there are some films in the MCU that were poorly timed, therefore they didn't bring them out at the right time. Some people say Black Widow falls into that category. I disagree. I say Black Widow shouldn't have existed at all, and it's like, and the reason I say that is not because I have any problem with the character. I regret very much that they did not do a Black Widow standalone movie in the middle of the height of the pre-Infinity War thing. They should have. But the way they've tried to square peg this into the events of right before Infinity War, it's one of the sloppiest MCU movies I've ever seen. And it's now because it's done after the fact. So we already know the resolution to this character ultimately. This film, to me, also not only feels sloppily written and tone deaf, but it also feels totally unnecessary at this point. I would have liked to have seen a far superior, better written Black Widow film back during right after.
The same movie would have been garbage 4 years earlier.
Yes, this same movie would have been. I want a rewrite. I want a complete rewrite, and I want something that would have done justice to the character that we knew during the Avengers cycle. But we didn't get that. And we didn't get that at the right time. This is not an appropriate substitute. This thing is a joke. I hated this movie. I hated it. So,
well, I can't blame you. But my number 27, here's a shocker again. Look, I'm sorry to keep shocking all of you people so much. I know you're just not going to be able to handle the shock of this. But I'm going to have to do it to you anyway. Captain Marvel I got to hand it to Eternals. I didn't think you could be worse than this movie. And the reason why I say worse, that if it were just left to its own ends, it's just boring and really kind of dumb and with nothing interesting in it. But it manages to destroy no less than 3 great things from the Marvel Universe. 3. So this one is on this one. A lot of this rating is based on destruction.
Yeah.
It destroys Marvel. It destroys the Skrulls, and it destroys the cinematic Nick Fury. Forget how boring Brie Larson is. Yes, she's boring and she's OP, and the movie has really just an absolutely zero story. She has no journey whatsoever. There's nothing interesting about any of there's nothing, not a good scene. Just like Eternals, there's not a good scene in the film, not one, not even anything to make you go, well, that was okay. Not for me.
Right.
It's pretty boring and bad. But if that were just it, maybe it wouldn't be quite so lowly rated. But what it does to Marvel is disgusting. And again, Fury and the Skrulls, unforgivable, horrible, just a absolute. Again, I didn't think I could hate an MC movie more, and it's nothing to do with all the Brie Larson hate out there. Right. I don't like her, but I don't care about her that much. You know, yeah. In a decent movie, she'd have been serviceable and have been whatever. I don't like this version of Carol Danvers. Let me throw another destruction in. Carol Danvers. She kind of already been destroyed in the comics, like Kelly Sue DeConnick and all these people. But she used to be an okay character, so this just solidified her destruction in the pop culture. Let's put it like that. So
yeah,
terrible,
we can keep talking about this because it's my 26.
Okay, I mean, go for it.
The only reason that Black Widow ended up edging lower than this one was because Black Widow, I feel, wrecked a character I really liked. Whereas this one created a pastiche character that never really existed in this form at all, and did it like we talked about in a poorly timed thing because they just suddenly wanted Captain Marvel in this before the Infinity War, and they're like, "Quick, we got to get her in there between Infinity War and Endgame." And it's like, wow, you guys spent a good long time building up our love and understanding of these other Avengers, these other characters in all these different movies. What do you expect we're gonna feel about this know-nothing character in a bland film that's joyless, that's, like you said, Mike, it's bad enough that it's wrecking all of this legacy storytelling from Marvel Comics needlessly, but then to also be joyless and kind of stupid on top of that.
Yes.
You know, I know a lot of people, for example, I know a lot of people who are Marvel Comics devotees. I respect everything that they, have learned, and I always listen to their knowledge. They don't, and I'm not saying general, I'm saying some of them don't like Thor Ragnarok. And I listen to them and I'm like, I understand why, I understand their point of view.
Me either.
on Thor Ragnarok. I get it, right? That being said, at least Thor Ragnarok is a film that you can watch, and regardless of what's comic legacy canon versus what's MCU, whatever, regardless of that, at least the film has some good dialogue and some good chemistry between the main leads, and it's got something there to enjoy while you watch it, even if you have to dissect it afterwards and go, oh, but at least the movie's watchable. Whereas this film, Captain Marvel, it is the cinematography is bland, the dialogue is really flat and paint by numbers. The character herself, why are we supposed to care about this character
who just shows up with great powers and just boom?
Yeah, we never get that answered for us. A lot of the much in the way the Eternals had a lot of bad ideas. The way they do the Annette Bening character of Marvel, but not just the Marvel part, but even her manifestation within the consciousness or whatever is also really really cheesy, and it's
Primor.
It just the whole thing doesn't work. The whole
movie's terrible.
Oh yeah, it's real bad.
And and by the way, Eternals, we forgot it would have taken too long. We've already reviewed it to pieces and tore about all that stupid things in it. So the thing is, when I'm judging these films, everyone, remember something. I'm being pretty easy. These are comic book films. and I love comics. And so some of the films that even one that I don't think is good at all, I will always make sure I point out the things if it has this or that and the other. Oh, I like that. I don't care if it's 5 minutes.
Right.
I'll go, I like this bit. I thought this,
Mhm.
and I'm going to do that with every one of them. I don't have one here. That's why it's so low.
Yeah.
Where are we at? 26?
Yep.
My 26 or that was your 26, right?
Uh-huh. Yep.
Okay, my 26 is oh boy, Shang-Chi.
Oh, okay.
The Legend of the 10 Bangles.
Mm-hmm.
Holy shite, this movie. Look, I'm a big fan of Shang-Chi and Master of Kung Fu from the comics. And every time I dare to criticize this film, it's apologist. And hey, I love you if you like it, fine. Good night, Dave, Bob. Good to see you there, buddy. And thank you all for being here in the chat. I named everyone else, but there's so many of you. But you know who you are, and you know I love you. So I thank you all for being here. Shang-Chi gets every single, just like Captain Marvel and Eternals, it gets nothing right about the character. Zero. Right. Some have said, I know that, but I'd like that it's sort of a fantasy romp. Well, I'm sorry, that's not the point. Shang-Chi is not supposed to be that. Mm-hmm. His comic was based upon a couple of things. Yes, Fu Manchu, the old Fu Manchu novels, which of course Fu Manchu was his father, incorporated into the Marvel Universe, sure. His life of being raised to be an assassin and then breaking that mold via Nayland Smith, the old man from the novel, an old man who was the old nemesis of Fu Manchu. And it was, yes, he was in the Marvel Universe. He had some crazy adventures for sure, but there was also, it was based upon the big craze of Kung Fu films of the 70s. And he was the master of Kung Fu. I don't need to see a movie about a stupid sister, which is what this is.
Right.
And who trained herself. Plus, some of these Marvel movies, kind of sort of like the last two we just looked at, have terrible casting. Some have great. For example, Chris Hemsworth's so great as Thor, even though I don't like the way they write him. I just kind of forgive a lot of the things they write because he's cool. Captain America, listen, I hate Iron Man 2 and 3, which we'll talk about later. But still, RDJ is great as Iron Man. They have some lesser films with some great castings. Mm-hmm. This is a horrible casting. Simu Liu, or whatever his name is, looks about as much like Bruce Lee as my ass.
Right.
Okay? So he doesn't belong in this movie. This movie has no good qualities. Nothing in it I like. I hate every single second of it because it has nothing to do with the character I grew up liking.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you want to wait till we get to that on your list, or
well, you really don't have to wait because
next.
Because it was next. Yeah.
Okay, 25. Go for it.
Yeah. The issue that I had with this movie in massive part, and I talked to Melinda about this when we watched it, was I have gotten to a point, Mike, where I've acknowledged that the MCU is a lot like Marvel Ultimates, where it's just going to do it.
So yeah,
it's just going to do its own thing. It's gonna be a pastiche of picking and choosing from various bits of different continuities, and then bringing other stuff just out of the blue and putting it in there as well, like we saw with the Eternals. That doesn't mean that everything they do is great, but it also means that I've now come to expect that this is not going to be a retelling of the legendary Marvel comics for the masses that didn't read them. They're going to try and put their fingerprints all over it and make it something else, which sucks, but unfortunately in the entertainment industry, it's no longer unexpected. And so Shang-Chi, I went into it very much with that attitude, but you'll notice it's still pretty low on my list. And the reason it ends up being low on my list is because there were things about the exposition. And again, I'm admitting here that I went into Shang-Chi just saying, I'm not even going to expect it to be like the comic. I'm going to just try and judge this thing from the movie on its own. And when the movie's on its own after jettisoning the original mythology and it still can't get its nuts and bolts right,
mm-hmm.
It still can't sell me, like, all the exposition about how the village is hidden in the bamboo versus all the stuff that they then like you see his father get to the village one way, but then they're told, no, there's another way you have to get to the village, and it's this way. And it's like, that's just one example.
Mm-hmm.
The whole ending, the ending fight with the two dragons, I was about as bored
Me too.
as I was during the Metropolis battle in Man of Steel. Like I was
Pretty bored.
bored. Like I was just like, they're not explaining any of this. We've got no proper context for this. I'm just watching a video game at this point.
Yeah. Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
Not explaining what the 10 rings power really is. They're not explaining how the 10 rings in this movie work. They're not explaining any of that. So, and I know this is kind of a cheap shot at the film, but it did shock me nonetheless. So at the beginning of the movie, they established that Shang-Chi and Aquafina, whoever she plays, I can't remember her name, they're car valets at a really nice San Francisco
hotel or something.
Right.
Or, yeah.
It's just a little scene where a big expensive BMW sports car pulls up. He tries to take the keys. She takes them from him. She's going to drive it because she's like a wild girl or whatever. And he's like, don't do this. Anyway, we get to the end of the movie and Melinda says, I think there's a gag reel on the film. And I'm like, okay. So we watch the gag reel, and in the gag reel, they have a blooper from that scene. And I was appalled to see that the entire street, all the hotels in San Francisco that they were supposed to be standing next to, all the buildings and everything were not actually there. Like they're literally just standing next to a BMW in a big green dome. And I'm like,
my God.
This is where we are with filmmaking now. And I know that's a separate issue,
No,
but it just made me hate the dragon thing that I'd already seen even more, because it was like, well, this whole film is just a video game. There's nothing here to hold on to. So yeah, Shang-Chi was a disappointment.
Terrible stuff in there. What are we on now? 24?
24.
What is your 24?
My 24 is Iron Man 3.
Well, we tied again, dude.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Nice.
Iron Man 3, the film the film that hooks you in the first 10 to 15 minutes and you think it's going to go somewhere pretty interesting. And then it immediately face plants like Chevy Chase on SNL.
Yes. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Don't get man. This movie, I think we pretty much roasted it last year, but first of all, terrible choice of villain. Extremis was not interesting in the comic to me. Maybe someone disagrees. You have one of the stupidest scenes ever in a movie ever, when he gets on live television and says, "Come at me, baby," and come. Here's my address. Come attack me again.
Right.
The bravado's fine. He's Iron Man. I get it. But then he gets attacked by, let's see, big giant robot things? Nope. Some kind of supervillain or nope. A couple of helicopters. And Iron Man can't handle a couple of stupid helicopters with little missiles in them.
Right.
You're Iron Man, aren't you? He gets his house destroyed by two. Am I exaggerating? Was it 2 helicopters or 3 or whatever? Nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like what is this, a Lethal Weapon film all of a sudden? Oh yeah, written by Shane Black. Yeah, of course. Because it's just like that. It's almost like the scene in Lethal Weapon when he gets attacked on the beach. When Martin Riggs, I'm like, wait a minute, you're Iron Man, dude. You could flick your wrist and knock out 3 helicopters, at least. But no, for dumb drama reasons, they have him barely escape it, and then it moves on to be not anything to do with an Iron Man film. I really hate this movie.
Yeah, it's not. I think it's a huge letdown. How do I put this? I think its letdown is magnified by the fact that Robert Downey Jr. was so well received in the first Iron Man and in the first Avengers film as well. Your mileage will vary on Iron Man 2 as a viewer, but Iron Man 3 is a jaw-dropping disaster as a screenplay.
Yep. And
it's from Shane Black. And you're going, what? Like,
he thought he was writing a Lethal Weapon film.
Yeah. It's a mess. This movie is a mess. I skipped it in the theater, and then in order to catch up ahead of Civil War, I went and watched it. I got it on disc and watched it, and I was just like, ugh. So yeah.
23. We had a couple ties.
Oh yeah. My 23 is Iron Man 2, and the reason I say that is simply because, like Iron Man 3, it's not as bad as Iron Man 3. Obviously, it's one step above. But the reason I group them together is simply because I found it just as forgettable and lackluster as aside from the introduction of Scarlett Johansson, who, you know,
best thing in the film.
The best thing in the film by far. But when people ask me, you know, about all the Marvel films, I have to admit I always forget about it completely. I just then I'm reminded, oh yeah, that's when Scarlett Johansson joins the cast and Black Widow's introduced, but that's really the only part of it that I hold on to. Everything else is just this sort of special effects gimmicky mess, and it wasn't, like I said, it's not obviously the worst film in the MCU, but I do have a hard time remembering that movie is a thing. So I just group it with Iron Man 3 and just like, yeah.
Yeah. Dude, I can't even, I got more to say about it, but I think I better hold on to it until I get to that, because I do have a couple before it.
Okay.
So let me see here. Sorry, everyone. My number
23.
Yep. You know, I'm so bad at numbering. My number 23 is, I guess, this actually will be surprising for some people. Got to find it here. Sorry. Is Black Panther.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I'm going to surprise some people with that, I realize, but I'm a huge fan of T'Challa, the Black Panther from the comic books. For those that don't know. And I just found that's why this is such a disappointment for me. This film, and again, I've gone into it in more detail before, way back. Black Panther for me represents one of the biggest disappointments, because T'Challa is completely shortchanged in his own film. He's backbenched for the female characters. The film dumps all over T'Chaka, makes him a bad dad and a scumbag, which he wasn't in Civil War.
Right.
So it has crappy villains. They waste Claw, a classic villain.
They literally waste Claw.
Literally waste him, and figuratively they waste him. And yes, exactly. Thank you. And that is just, it's tragic. This movie is tragic to me. All the wasting.
Mm-hmm. And it was. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna, before I get done, because these things passed me by and I forgot earlier. I apologize, my friends. I want to thank these. I don't want to ignore super chats. Thank you so much, your Muslim uncle. Thank for $4.99 super chat. He says this is as good of a crossover as when the X-Men would show up on Spider-Man and his amazing friends. Hail to peace to you both, you amazing and the amazing fans. Well, thank you, your Muslim uncle, and I know Michael appreciates that because he's a fan of that cartoon.
Yes, sir.
Yes, he is.
Yes, sir.
And Judge Lott, thank you. He said, I hated this movie. I left the theater angry. I'm not sure exactly which film you're referring to, because I passed it by probably already, but we already agreed because we're still in our low 20s. So I know we agree, whichever one that was, even though I didn't leave the theater. So I'm sorry about that. I just wanted to catch up on those. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Don't be sorry. Don't be sorry. Always read the super chats, sir. It's your channel.
Yeah, I totally forgot it, man. Sorry, I'm bad. I don't give any super chats everyone. So once I'm not in practice, but thank you so much. But Black Panther, to me, and a lot of people liked it and everything. If we get to one of these films that has something good in it, I'll let you know. I thought Killmonger was not particularly well written, and none of the characters are particularly well written. They ruined Claw. But my biggest problem is Black Panther is the backbencher in his own film. His little annoying sister's the smartest one. She does everything. He doesn't even get any good action scenes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's and I've got it on my list. Obviously, not far from here, but I agree with you where I felt like the screenwriters tried harder to give Killmonger good writing than they did the main character, and
they did.
Yeah, and it was very strange to see that because I really liked Black Panther in Civil War. I was excited to see him in his own
He was
standalone
great
film.
in that. Chadwick's, I love Chadwick, rest his soul.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a film that ended up being a lot more. Uh, I know I've used this phrase before, but the film ended up being a lot more paint by numbers than I would have expected. It ended up just kind of
Right.
leaning into some
Yeah.
superhero movie cliches, and I was kind of like, oh, I actually thought they were going to some really interesting places with this. They set it up like, Black Panther was going to break the mold on a lot of this stuff, and it kind of didn't. So
No, I mean, and again, call me old fashioned, but I want to see a Black Panther movie. I want to see Black Panther be the forefront. Just any movie with a title character. Again, I know this is revolutionary. I'm there to see Black Panther. He was such a great beginning in Civil War, and I thought, wow, this guy's going to be great. I couldn't wait to see this movie. And again, it dumps all over T'Chaka too. It really makes him a bad guy. It portrays him in a bad light.
yeah,
And then in Black Panther, look, Black Panther is one of the smartest men in the Marvel universe.
yeah,
He's a genius. But in this, he was adult, and his sister did everything. It was really asinine. And early permutations of MCU had already started to take place, and even in Infinity War, which I love, and it's in this one and things after it. But just a damn shame. And that was my number 23. Right. So 22, sir.
My 22 is Thor: The Dark World. The only reason that I have it this low, as much as I love Chris Hemsworth as Thor, and as much as I'm one of those people that actually, will throw in Thor Ragnarok and stuff like that, and I like the first Thor movie. I really, really like that film too, and this film though, I think frankly, it's when I say joyless, I don't mean to imply that every comic book film should be Ragnarok.
Right.
I don't think every comic book film should be Guardians of the Galaxy. I don't. As a matter of fact, I really want more comic films to find their serious tone and show people that this is more than just, a lark. But Thor: The Dark World really lived up to its subtitle, where you've got this just plodding, joyless plot. And it doesn't help that the Natalie Portman factor is in there too, where I know you and I've talked about this before on on various episodes, Mike, but she has no compunction about signing on to get a paycheck from projects that she otherwise has no interest in bringing her A game to. And she will come out of these projects, with all the stories going all the way back to the prequels, all these stories of, she just kind of phoned in her performance. And I feel like she phoned in her performance on this one, because I know that she didn't have a good time on the first one, and she was contractually obligated to this one. So that pallor is over this movie as well. I plan to rewatch it for the third time at some point in the near future. I hadn't gotten around to it before our show, but as of right now, it still sits low on the list.
I got a feeling it won't go too it won't go too much higher for you there, man.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Thank you so much, Cardinal Sin, for the $10 super chat, buddy. I appreciate you. He says, "Hail Clobbering Times, Mark D with a C. Rebel Wookie, sorry. Phantom Outsider, Kal-El, Steven, all you guys, Glenzer, all mods in chat. What would we do without Clobby? Well, you'd have a much better YouTube, I'll tell you that. But I thank you anyway. I think you'd be fine, Phil. Let's see, because I can't even get your name right, Gil. So thank you, Cardinal Sin, my brother. I hope you're doing well. Thank you. Well, we already talked about my number
22.
22. Yes, you talked about it enough for both of us. We don't really say much about it. It is, of course, Iron Man 2 audience nothing. All I will say, is this is now we're at the first film that is something I can actually say that I sort of almost liked, and I liked seeing the Black Widow stuff. But aside from that, there's pretty much nothing, and I hate what they did to the character of. Well, I hate Mickey Rourke's horrible. He's incoherent in this film. He's terrible. It looks like they just went over to rehab, and just he says, "All right, that'll be in your movie." Yeah, come on, I'll go take a shot. No. You look fine. No. Don't do a thing. Come on. And they bring him right from rehab, and he's unintelligible, can't speak, and they said just speak your lines, and they take the character. His name is from the character of the Crimson Dynamo, which would have been perfect for an Iron Man film. He's a great Iron Man villain. And what do? They give him Whiplash's motif.
Yep.
So it's so stupid. Whiplash sucks. He's a minor. Whiplash can't do anything without Worldman or the Living Laser backing him up. But Crimson Dynamo can give Iron Man a fight, a tussle. So Jon Favreau really shit the bed on this film, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. It's a film that has a very schizophrenic tone to it doesn't know what it wants to be. Like the film has these deeply serious things going on with the Whiplash character as depicted, but then it's also got all this really silly stuff in it to try and remind people, hey, remember how you thought Iron Man was funny in the first one? Like we're going to remind you how funny he is. And it's like, and I also really didn't like the briefcase armor. I thought that was dumb.
Oh, that was dumb. 21.
My 21 is for reasons that will become clear. The Incredible Hulk. The reason that it's this low on the list is because I still can't bring myself to accept it as an entry in the MCU. I know that William Hurt was brought back as Ross in a number of other films, but that's the only thing. We've never seen Liv Tyler again. We've never seen Tim Roth. They have not done enough to. I can literally live without this movie and go straight into the Avengers, and I feel like that's a suitable setup for the Hulk for the.
There's
MCU.
only one reference in the Avengers to it at all. There was a reference.
Yeah. But it's like, okay, whatever. Like this movie it was done by Universal, obviously. It doesn't feel like I know Robert Downey Jr.'s got a little cameo at the end after the credits. I get it, but
yeah,
it just I've never been able to plug it in to I own it in the MCU library in my movie collection because it's literally part of the MCU, and I know this is kind of a weird thing to say, but I also found the Hulk effects at the time to be kind of rubbery. I don't know why. I didn't think the Hulk looked very good in that movie. I don't know. So there's a few things. I like the fact that they tried to do it the right way, unlike the Ang Lee film where he's on the run and the government's after him. And the Ang Lee film is down with the Eternals. Like it's down there.
One of the worst things I've ever seen.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm not trying to imply, but I'm saying as in the context of the MCU, I just can't get my head around this movie being a part of it.
They did sort of reference Cat the Super Soldier serum from
yeah.
And then later, of course, retroactively Shang-Chi, the Abominations in there. But no, I hear you.
Yeah.
I mean, believe me, you can't blame you.
Yeah.
That was 21.
Yep.
My 21, well, again, you already handled it. There's not much that needs to be said about it. It is, of course, in fact, Thor the Dork World. Just a bore. Not a lot to be said about it, really. You handled it perfectly.
Yeah.
So,
it's such a shame, too, because it's got Chris Hemsworth in it. It's got, Anthony Hopkins. It's got Loki. It's got Heimdall. It's got Sif, which we haven't – I guess we saw her on TV after that at some point, but we haven't seen her since in the MCU itself, which I hope she's still alive somewhere. That'd be nice. But just a movie
Sif? Wasn't she killed in Ragnarok?
she was never in Ragnarok, so there's this up
No,
in
it's
the
just
air.
the other guys. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Which was a very strange omission. It was like, oh, she's not
That's
here.
true. That sucked.
Well, but again, it's like hopefully that means she escaped by chance, like her character
Right.
lives on.
Right.
But yeah, this movie kind of went up its own rear end, and I'm not sure how that happened. So
20.
My 20's Black Panther, which we've
Hey,
talked about. Mm-hmm.
Night said that. Hey, Tom, what's up, buddy? He says, Tom says hi to Michael. What's up, man?
Yeah, I'm doing well. How are you? Oh, Tom Connors, Midnight's Edge
Tom
After
Connors, the
Dark.
man. It's good to see you there, brother.
Good to see you, sir. Good to see you, sir.
I'm sorry, what was your 20 again?
My 20 is Black Panther.
Okay.
The reason that I have it above Incredible Hulk is not it's not trying to it's not trying to dog on the Hulk, who is definitely, one of the greatest characters in the MCU. The reason is simply because, unlike all the other films that we've talked about, with an odd exception with Shang-Chi, Shang-Chi is that low on the list for all the reasons we've talked about. They did really try in that movie, though, and maybe they tried too much to establish why the villain was doing what he was doing in Shang-Chi. Black Panther struck me when I watched it as forgettable and largely a letdown. It was like we were hoping for more. We were hoping for more Chadwick Boseman. I did not like the way they treated his father in that film, like we talked about.
Terrible.
Yeah, it was horrible. But I was taking note. My eyes and ears did notice that they were trying to develop the villain and give him a reason for why he was doing the things he was doing. And even though they did it too much at the sacrifice of the title character, which is a huge mistake, that is why it edges out over some of the other films low on the list.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Not exactly sparkling praise of it anyway. So.
No, you're right. It's faint praise. Yeah.
Yeah. My 20 might surprise you a little bit. It'll surprise some people, I think. And that's Thor Ragnarok.
Oh, yeah.
I actually enjoyed it a little bit more when I first saw it. It has a very promising opening. But all this movie does is it has some great action. Again, remember I said I would start, and as soon as we got to some films that had things I liked in it, I would say so.
Yeah.
Or almost, this is, to be fair to it, the first one that had a lot of stuff I liked, a lot of the Kirby visual references to it. I like the big Hulk Thor battle. But this movie just totally turns Thor into a clown.
Yes, and that's a big point of contention with Melinda and myself, because Melinda loves Thor and hates him being turned into a joke.
Destroying Mjolnir? Go ahead, sorry.
Mm-hmm. No, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, that's all I was saying was that she's in very much agreement with you that she does not like seeing Thor turned into a joke.
He's a total joke, total clown, all this crap about you're not the god of hammers. Screw that. I love Mjolnir's a wonderful part of the Marvel version of Thor. Okay. That sucks. What they did, just killing Odin, wiping out Asgard, all this crap. And Hela, by the way, Hela is not his sister, idiots. Okay, it's just, again, although she was smoking hot now, I give them that. They stealing some of the Planet Hulk stuff was amusing. They have a horrible version of Valkyrie, and again, it's just, it's an entertaining film if you don't really give a crap about the character of Thor. But they this is when they started continually progressing, going up and down with the character of Thor. They're still doing it. They'll do it with the next film after the way they did him in Endgame, which we'll go into later. So anyway, it's movie aggravates me, but we'll move on to your number 19.
My number 19 is Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness.
The new one. There you go.
We're going to end up talking about Doctor Strange more again on higher up on my list. And I wanted so much.
You just saw this.
Yeah, just saw it, and I had such high hopes. I wasn't thrilled when I heard that, even though they parted ways amicably, I wasn't thrilled to find out that the director of the original film told Kevin Feige, "This is not what I want to do with this character, and not where I want to take him. So I'm bowing out." And that was during the screenwriting process. And I was like, ooh, that doesn't bode well, because the director of the original film, for all of the conveyor belt filmmaking that Marvel puts its directors through, I've listened to the commentary of the original Doctor Strange a few times, and that director is a true fan of Doctor Strange comics. Like, he loves Scott Derrickson. He loves the Doctor Strange comics. So then when he bailed, and then they said, we've got Sam Raimi, I was like, oh shit. I was just like, we're in bad territory now. I look, guys, I love the Evil Dead stuff. I think it's fun, but I'm one of those people that did not like his Spider-Man films. And I say films. Parts of them were good, but you can't sit there and lean on Willem Dafoe and Alfred Molina as two individuals to say that Sam Raimi did a stellar job with the Spider-Man movies. I'll fight you to the end on that. Yeah, Dafoe and Molina did some great work, but as far as his movies, that I just think I would love to just deconstruct them Mauler style at some point. They are just, ugh. But anyway, so when he did this, I was, I don't know. One of the things I have a big problem with this movie is, regardless of how you feel about WandaVision, if we start looking at it dispassionately as this is the MCU, not Marvel Comics, and we have to take some of that into context, right? So we're applying it that way. I do not feel there was any reason to double down on Wanda Maximoff. I felt like she had gone through an arc in WandaVision, and this film needed to be something where there's a different threat, because it feels like they did WandaVision again, but this time they did it dialed up. It's like, hey, remember what happened in WandaVision? Groundhog Day, we're doing it again. Except this time it's with a bunch of characters you've never heard of and don't really care about. And the characters you do like the two Benedicts, whatever, and then the trailers set it all up in that Marvel way where they're like, they make you think that Mordo is coming back, like he should, because he walked away from everything at the end of the first one and he was real angry. But then you find out, oh no, he's actually just a different Mordo. And it's like, oh my God, like the whole thing I thought was just vapid and messy. And the biggest problem I have with this movie, Mike, is that instead of trying to do what the Jack Kirbys of the world and the Steve Ditkos of the world were good at, which is creating characters that deal with big ideas, this movie felt like a very small exercise in we don't really want to concern ourselves with big ideas. What we want to concern ourselves with is getting all of our chess pieces in play for whatever our next big Marvel film is going to be. So this film just ends up being like, I guess the way to describe it is,
a mess.
It's a mess, but these characters are all tools in a toolbox to create something wonderful. And now Marvel has gotten obsessed with staring at the tools in the ratchet set rather than using the ratchets to build something great. And that's what this movie felt like. It just, it was a real letdown. It was a real letdown for me.
Gotcha. What number was that? That was number
19. And I'm sorry I talked too much.
No, don't be ridiculous, dude. That's what you're here for, man. And let's see. That was 19. My 19 is, oh boy, we're still in the territory where I'm in fact in territory where there's almost very little in a movie that I like. We're still there because we're at number 19, and that would be there he is, Spider-Man Far From Home.
Yeah.
I can't give you a whole lot about this one that I even care about. I mean, I thought it was boring beyond belief.
Yep.
Mysterio is kind of cool, I guess. If that is, your taste. I thought at least it was interesting, looked okay. There was some all right stuff in it, but this movie's such a crashing bore. I'm not even going to talk about it long. There's no point in talking about it long.
Oh, my friend, we can both skim right by it now because it's my 18.
Oh, it's your 18? Well,
Yeah.
let's leave that puppy in the dust.
Oh, yeah, dude.
It's just a crashing bore.
Boring, forgettable. Not sure what they were trying to do with that film. You know what? I tell you, first of all,
they were setting up the next film with framing him for murder. But go ahead.
Yeah. See, they were too busy in each film setting up the next film that they're not focusing on the film that they're actually working on anymore. Look, I've made no secret about this, and I first of all, everybody, to preface what I'm going to say, Mike knows me pretty well. I don't jump on castings. I don't generally blame castings. I immediately look at writers and directors and how they're writing the story, because most actors are going to get in there and just do what they're told contractually, whatever. Some actors and actresses can be exceptions, like Brie Larson, stuff like that. But by and large, most castings aren't really an issue. I've never liked the MCU's entire structure for Spider-Man. I like generally the way he is as Spider-Man, but when I say as Spider-Man, I mean when he's in the suit swinging around, punching and kicking and doing whatever. It's the whole thing around him in the MCU makes him very much kind of not really a Spider-Man in the traditional Marvel sense. He's just like we've said, he's a Spider-Man that has been specifically designed to assist their ambitions for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But I do not see him as anything close to a definitive cinematic Spider-Man at all.
Same here. It's again, I don't. I mean, I actually thought I liked the actor. I thought he did a nice job in the movies that weren't his own, and as far as for a few of them, nothing against him. But I'm sorry, when you take out the Uncle Ben, when you put in Tony Stark as his Uncle Ben, when you tweak it too much, it stops being Spider-Man. When you make him Iron Spider Boy, I hate that stuff. Which brings me to my number. That was your 18, right?
Yes.
That'll just bring me to my 18, which is the one before it. Sorry, not that one.
Homecoming.
Yeah. Spider-Man: Homecoming. Another one. Now this one has some interesting things in it. I mean, some of the stuff. Michael Keaton as the Vulture is pretty entertaining. It has some pretty decent action sequences in it. But again, as you were speaking, it just does not feel like Spider-Man.
No, it doesn't. And Homecoming is my 17. So
we're pretty close there, man.
Yeah. This movie, again, not a memorable Spider-Man film. I think they missed a huge opportunity here, and I'm not even joking. I know that they didn't own Fox at this point, but if you're going to make Iron Man his benefactor, then you've got to bring in Iceman and Firestar. If they had done that,
you'd love that.
If they had done that, then I'd have been like, oh, at least they're trying to do something legacy legit here. Because as it stands right now, nothing stands out in these movies aside from the posters. Like I told people the other day, and there's so much about the Spider-Man world in the MCU when you're talking about these standalone movies is so forgettable, and I don't give a crap about his friend Ned. Man. And his friend Ned is a lousy actor outside of high school hijinks. Anytime that actor is trying to do something that's actually part of the plot, he can't sell what. So it's just like what are we doing here? If they had gone ahead and pushed through the licensing issues and said, well, since we've set up Tony Stark as giving him all of his equipment and everything, that's literally the setup for Amazing. That's literally the setup for Amazing Friends. And you don't give us an Iceman Firestar setup for the MCU Spider-Man, then what do you have with me? You got nothing. You either start Spider-Man the right way like he did in the original comics, and like they tried to do in 2 different movie
Yes.
cycles, or if you've got Tony Stark anywhere near this character, you better be giving me Firestar and Iceman for the love of God. And they didn't.
Right.
They didn't. And I know there's people that don't like the Amazing Friends cartoon, but it would have been handled differently in the MCU. I think it would have given the Amazing Friends some credibility as a legacy Marvel thing.
Sure.
And they literally handed it to us on a platter and then pulled away the final elements. They were like, look at this. It's the one opportunity in the history of the universe for us to do this, and we're not doing it. And it's like, you know what? Damn you. Damn you.
I hear you. What are we at? 17?
We are at 16 now.
Oh, well, that was my 18.
Oh, well, that was my 17. Sorry. So you're 17.
17.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So we're at my 17 then. I keep getting confused because we have one the same one. Okay, well, we've kind of talked. You don't have to say much about it because you've already talked about it. My 17 would be the new film Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. I actually didn't hate it as much as a lot of people did. I found that had to have some. I mean, I like Sam Raimi. I thought the stuff that is clearly Sam Raimi's, I really enjoyed. A lot of his action, a lot of his set pieces and stuff like that. I actually thought it handled the character of Doctor Strange very well. I would have preferred it had nothing to do with being the sequel to WandaVision. That really aggravates me.
Right.
I love Wanda and all fine and well. I never liked the whole darker than Scarlet stuff in the comics where she became a villain all the time.
Yeah.
I did not. I mean, look, just a few years after Dark Phoenix, Mr. Originality himself, John Byrne, went ahead and ripped that off with what he did with Scarlet. I never liked it. That was in the 80s. Never cared for it much for her going dark all the time. But nevertheless, I don't get a say in it. So they decided to use her. I think the movie has a lot of great visuals by Sam Raimi. The only thing other than some other critical issues I had with it, my only thing I really truly hated and despised in the film was the goddamn. Sorry,
no,
really the stupid ass Illuminati bit. I hate the Illuminati from Marvel anyway. And the way the whole scene. I mean, it was really horribly stupid what they did to Black Bolt. It looked good in the costume. Reed Richards, people are like gushing about getting to see Reed Richards. The few people at the theater when I went the other day clapped to see Reed Richards. Big deal. They should just spaghetti monstered him. It was stupid. I hated everything about that whole scene. And of course, the girls give her a big fight, and then she kills him. Again, there was a waste. The Professor X bit, all of it was just garbage, and it was all Kevin Feige garbage. His meddling in the film that I hate. When it's just Sam Raimi doing weird, crazy Doctor Strange action, it's kind of entertaining. And when it gets away from that, with some of the other dumb crap Feige put in there, I think it debilitates the film quite a bit. And there was I found so its entertaining bits are always interrupted by those things. Overall, I didn't think it was particularly as offensively bad as a lot of people do. I just don't really have a whole lot. I don't know if I'll ever watch it again.
That's my point. That's my point. And I from what the trailers were showing, I was really hoping that Wanda's arc, that she was only going to get as dark as she had in WandaVision, and then the way the trailers were setting it up, it was like, oh, Doctor Strange goes to her for help in this multiverse issue because Mordo is now trying to punish him for what happened in No Way Home. I was really hoping it was going to be that logical. And I would have loved to have seen Doctor Strange and Wanda on the same team trying to stop Mordo from whatever he was going to try and do. And unfortunately, Marvel is so right now into its own, let's set up all these new characters. And I told Melinda after we saw it last night, I was like, they're in a real bind here. I said, because they're getting rid of the last few characters that they can't afford to lose that are the least bit interesting. They lost Chadwick Boseman unexpectedly, which was a huge loss. They got rid of Captain America and Iron Man. Hulk is pretty much out of it, aside from, having Mark Ruffalo make cameos. All they've got left is Doctor Strange, and they had Wanda, And then what they do? Well, they've kind of gotten
Yeah.
rid of Wanda in this movie now too. Do they really think that there's going to be this rabid fan base to come forward for another? They'll call it something other than Avengers. They might call it West Coast Avengers. I don't know. But do they really think that they have developed the Eternals and Shang-Chi and America Chavez properly to
No.
bring forward? You know what I mean? Like
No.
I
No, I hear you. I hear you. Again, by the way, to let everyone know, I gave this movie when we reviewed it the other day a fairly positive review because I do feel positive. I thought it was okay, but I didn't have a bad time. I found the Raimi stuff enjoyable. Then I walked out and I still gave it a fairly decent review the night we reviewed it. But it's still it doesn't stick with me. It doesn't stay with me. I think a lot of people who are going nuts about it being the worst thing ever made are a little over the top. I mean, nowhere near as close to some of the ones we've just been talking about. It's just as far as badness, I just think it misses the mark because it got fiddled with a little bit by Feige, and it's got things in there that even as I said the other night, that I hated, especially the Illuminati stuff. So I really don't have a lot of strong feelings for it one way or the other.
Yeah,
there's a lot. I think there's actually a lot of fun stuff in it. I don't care about it that much, I guess I should say. I mean,
right.
I think people are kind of overreacting to it a little bit as well. It's like I'm seeing way worse than this.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, we've just seen it, but
we just talked about way worse than this.
Yeah, but every other thing, it's like at least it's worth talking about. Where some of these movies aren't worth talking about.
No. I mean, after sitting through some of the crap I sat through, that same day I sat through PR season 2 finale and Strange New Worms, and anything's going to look good. So,
yeah.
Anyway, but that's another story. Sorry, everyone. So what are we at?
You
I think
was
that 17 for me. So go to 16 for you.
16 for me is we're starting back on the upswing, I think, with these. 16 for me is Spider-Man No Way Home. The reason that it's not higher is simply due to the fact that, one, as we've just talked about, as much as I feel like this movie did a lot of good stuff, it's still based in that MCU Spider-Man. And I'd like to point out to everybody that it took all the other Spider-Men from other live-action franchises to finally give the MCU Spider-Man, and Doctor Strange coming into it, to finally give the MCU Spider-Man a massively fan-lauded movie. But this movie couldn't exist without the entire history of cinematic Spider-Man informing it. So when people are like, it's the greatest Spider-Man movie ever, I call bullshit, because it couldn't exist literally without all the other stuff that came before it. It would not happen. So as much as I enjoy a lot of things about it, and I think it's a more smartly written multiverse movie than Doctor Strange 2, it is still just kind of a it's a novelty exercise. It has some of the worst acting from Ned in the entire Spider-Man trilogy. I have to tell you that too. I know I've got it out for Ned. It's got some great stuff in it. I saw some comments in the chat a few minutes ago talking about how Tom Holland hasn't done anything as bad as Andrew Garfield did to Spider-Man. And I say again, I don't go in for castings. I go in for writers and directors. And I'm going to say this right. I'm going to say this right now, and I'm going to stand by it till the day I die. Regardless of how we all feel about the plotting that was around the two Andrew Garfield films, Andrew Garfield is to Spider-Man what Timothy Dalton is to Bond. He was an actor that did a great job, that is currently underrated as the character, and his performance as Spider-Man, which has already been cited as one of the biggest highlights of No Way Home, will be redeemed in coming years, just like Timothy Dalton has seen a redemption for his performance as well. Yeah, he's being derided now, but he won't be later. Mark my words.
We both love Timothy Dalton, so you and I are big fans. And look, I can't stand either one of those two movies he was in, but I liked him fine.
I liked him just fine.
I liked him. He was fine, and
he was great.
Good casting. It's just that Alex Kurtzman. What do you expect?
Oh yeah, of course. See,
Yeah.
again, that's what you get back to. It's like,
Yeah.
we can't help the fact that the Berlin Wall came down right as Timothy Dalton was taking on the role. We can't help the fact that, you know, he had to be put in some unique plots while they were trying to sort of feel their way through
Right.
this new world order. But if you take Timothy Dalton in situ and you look at him and you go, he, as the performer, was doing the very best job he could to understand the character of James Bond. And I know that Andrew Garfield took the character of Spider-Man very seriously as the character. And when you watch some of those scenes isolated in Amazing Spider-Man 2, especially with him as Spider-Man, it's pretty hard not to have a smile on your face. It feels
Yeah.
he's good. And
He is.
yeah.
I like
So
him.
anyway, No Way Home is not in any way a bad movie. I just can't have it higher on the list because it relies on the entire history of these films to even exist. So
The only reason I have it higher on mine is because there's so many other weak films. I mean, the films don't really start getting solid. See, for example, I haven't been saying this, but I have a little rating system for the films going 0 to 5 stars.
mhm.
And this one, for example, Eternals is 0 with a bunch of minuses, and Captain Marvel, same deal, and Shang-Chi's a 1, and Black Widow, Iron Man, is like a 1-star type movies.
Yeah.
So you don't get to. I consider a 3 to be a solid film that is above, a solid on up, right? Where I don't have too many. I have a. It doesn't get into the 3s till we get around close to the top 10. So
Right.
Other ones are 2s. We're now or 1.5s and things like that. Like I got, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness is more like a 2 or something like that.
Right.
It's where it has some stars for having good stuff in it, but that sort of thing. 1.5s, things like that. So it didn't. So I'm saying out of 28 movies, as far as solid, top-notch films, there's not a lot of them for me. Even though I like them, even the ones I like, I go they have problems. So what is it? Where are we at?
We're at that was my 16. Yeah.
My 16 is. We're not to talk about it long. We'll make some space here. My 16 is The Incredible Bulk. And I guess I'm a little bit more well disposed towards this film because of how bad the Ang Lee one is. This is almost a decent apology.
Oh yeah.
I know that's no excuse.
No.
But I found it at least to be mildly entertaining. At least he's not fighting poodles. And I know that's a low bar. The Abomination could have looked better. The most annoying thing for me is how they set up the leader. There's a scene where they set up the leader and go, whoa, that's cool. That guy, that'll be great. And we never even get him. Of course, at that time you don't know what you're watching the first time. But I'm like, wow, you set that up. You didn't give us the leader. So I don't have much to say about it. We'll move on. We'll make some tracks here. But I will say thank you to the great Eric K, the Bronze Wrencher. What's up, buddy? He's for $5 super chat says, amen. Affleck could have been best Batman, but bad writing. I guess it's possible, but it's a Snyder, so I hate it. So thank you, buddy. Where are we at now? We're at 15.
We're at 15. My 15 is Ant-Man.
Interesting indeed.
Yes. Now, the only reason that I have Ant-Man this low, remember with Spider-Man No Way Home, I said it's because it couldn't exist without all the other Spider-Man films.
Right.
Literally all the other. If Nicholas Hammond had been in it, it would literally, and maybe even gotten the Japanese guy, it would literally have been all of them. Hell, they should have brought the electric company guy back for it too. That would have been great. But anyway, the reason this one is lower on the list, because the last time we talked about this, I was one of the few people that really liked Ant-Man and Wasp. And I like the Ant-Man movie too. The problem I have with the Ant-Man movie that keeps it from being higher on the list, the plot is a carbon copy of the first Iron Man movie. It's the same movie.
Mm-hmm.
You have a guy who invented all this cool technology, who's been sort of forced out of his company by an evil bald guy. And the bald guy is now using that technology to try and militarize it and sell it to all these evil people, just like Jeff Bridges did. And so they have to go back in and use the technology that's about to be stolen to stop the guy. And it ends with both of them in the same technology fighting each other to the death. And I'm like, wow. Like I like Paul Rudd a lot. I like his friends in the movie. You know, they're all great. I love Michael Douglas in it, all that stuff. But they are ganking their own plot from Iron Man. And it's like, I can't let that go. I have to,
I understand.
You know, so.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah.
It's strange because my 15 is Ant-Man and the Wasp, which I didn't hate as much as a lot of people did.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was you can make the case that it should be called the Wasp and Ant-Man. I mean,
Right.
But it was just, again, it's another one of those. We're still in that territory, folks. 15 on. What's this? 15? We're on number 15, and we're still in that territory for me where now we're getting there where I'm like, this is a fairly enjoyable movie, but still not something I would watch a lot. It's a 2-star movie, really, on my 5-star list.
Yeah. That's where I have to humbly admit, like, there's something about this movie where I've seen this movie like 4 times. I don't know.
It's not that bad. I mean, I like it.
Yeah.
Again, if I have it at a 2-star, that means I find it to be a fairly, enjoyable enough film.
Right.
Which I do. Like I said, even Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. Like I said, I gave it a fairly decent review the other night, although I acknowledge all the criticisms of it. It's very valid. And again, when we're in this territory, like 2-star territory, I'm never that defensive of a film where if someone says, yeah, but it had all this shit wrong with it, I'll go, yeah, you're probably right. Yeah, I don't even have the strong feeling. Yeah, you're probably right. What the? It's okay, but yeah, I hear you. I mean, that's how strongly I feel about a film that's there on the list that I have like a 2-star rating for. If you see what I'm saying.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we're definitely not in Wrath of Khan territory here with some of these things. So, but yeah, that was my 15. It was mildly entertaining, I thought. I kind of liked some of the stuff with the Giant Man stuff they used later at the end. But 14 for you.
14 for me is The Avengers. And I know we kind of talked about this a little bit at the beginning of the show. I'll say it again. The good stuff about the Avengers movie is more enjoyable after being informed by the entire Infinity War cycle and getting to know these characters a lot better. For me, the stuff that doesn't work, it doesn't get any worse, but it still doesn't work. So like the fact that they're supposed to be searching for this Tesseract and they spend almost 2/3 of the movie bitching at each other on the helicarrier, where it's like, okay, fine. There's not really a lot going on here. But much like, and Mike, I'm about to tell you how I feel about this movie. I'm not trying to say
that's okay.
No, because I'm about to say a movie that you absolutely loathe, and I also recognize severe. But I'm not making that comparison.
That's okay.
I'm about to make a comparison with just a general idea. Okay, I've often said that Return of the Jedi, for me, is the biggest letdown in the classic Star Wars trilogy, and yet it has, in isolation, some of the greatest moments in the original trilogy.
Dude, right? I've come to Jesus with that movie now. Lately, after what's been happening, I actually don't hate it anymore, believe it or not.
Well, but it is still the weakest of the original 3.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but yet it has some beautiful moments in it. And
I agree. I love a lot of it.
Yeah, I feel the same way about the Avengers in the Avengers cycle, where it has some of the most iconic moments in the history of the MCU, but I do feel it still has one of the thinnest plots of any of these films. And when I say any of these films, guys, I'm talking any of these films, Endgame or before, not including Captain Marvel, which is an outlier and is already in the toilet. So we don't count Captain Marvel. So yeah. That's what I mean.
No, I got you. Where are we at now? That is number, what was that? 14?
Yes, we're on 14.
And what was yours?
Avengers.
That was one of it. Okay. My 14 is it is There we go. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I look, and I think we're going to talk a little bit about Star-Lord, maybe. This version of Star-Lord is in these films
awful.
I hate the way he is, but I still kind of just enjoy the movies. I got to admit, it's a weird thing. I mean, I got a buddy of mine. I think I've mentioned him before, who is a big fan of this iteration of the Guardians of the comics. Before that, this is taken from, by the way,
right.
Not that this, and even in that one, he's like my friend always says, he hates Star-Lord in these movies because he's in these movies he's quote a horny man-child.
Yep.
Which is what he is. I still find them fun and funny and almost detached from the Marvel universe a little bit. I love the use of music in both of the films.
Yep.
This movie's a little bit over the top and crazy. I love Kurt Russell, even though he's kind of over the top in the role. But there are a couple, like 2 or 3 great set pieces that use music, action sequences that use music so well. The second best being Rocket in the woods,
yes,
to the Glenn Campbell film song Southern Nights.
Yep,
taking out all the what do they call them? The Ravagers.
Yep.
And then on the Ravager ship, when Rocket and Yondu and Groot take out the whole ship, that's a fantastic scene.
It is. It really is.
And there's some other great eye-popping effects and fun stuff. Use of music. It's like a big fun music video. It doesn't take itself too seriously. I like the banter and everything between these characters and the relationships between these characters. I don't find this to be as entertaining a film as the first one, but it has a lot of fun stuff to it. I put up with this Star-Lord, but I understand anybody who doesn't like. Again, I like Chris Pratt, by the way, but who doesn't like this terribly written. But at least in these 2 films, he doesn't destroy them like he does in another movie we're going to talk about later.
Yeah, guys, when I'm talking about a character, I'm not talking about the actor. So
No.
Yeah, Mike knows that I loathe Peter Quill in the MCU.
Yes, I don't blame you.
He is very poorly written. He was fine when I say fine, from an MCU's unique take on all this perspective, he was fine in the first film. I gave him the first film to kind of get his shit together. But then they decided, nah, we're going to keep him here. And it's done a disservice to the rest of the Guardians of the Galaxy thing. I blame James Gunn and the writers for that.
Oh, it's James Gunn. Absolutely.
Yeah. I love Rocket. I think it's and the reason I'm talking about this is because it's my 13, by the way. This movie.
Cool.
So
I'm 13. Cool.
Yeah, I blame the writers and James Gunn for doing things like killing Yondu. I wish they hadn't done that. I know that they were trying to do something deep, but it's like, again, just like with what they did with Wanda, it's like you guys are running out of good characters before you get to the next thing. If you really think that you're building up the MCU with compelling characters through your Disney Plus TV shows, you got another thing coming.
Yeah, they're idiots.
So Yondu getting offed, another Peter Quill story with him just being a jackass. I really walk away from this just going, the lost opportunity here is I would have killed for a Rocket and Yondu movie.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. I mean, look, right now, if they hadn't ruined everything, I love the dynamic between Thor and Rocket and
anything
absolutely. Like that.
Yeah.
But so that was your 13 then.
Yep.
Okay, well, in that case, my 13 is where are you? Find it. Is Thor.
Oh, okay.
I thought they did a decent. Again, I think this is sometimes I used to think of it as something of half a film. Mm-hmm. All the first opening stuff in Asgard's fantastic. I really do love it.
Yeah.
As a Thor fan. When we get to Earth, I do think the movie does kind of come to a dead stop, but I understand it's necessary. So I cut it some slack as an action story. And by the end, again, when he becomes the Thor that he's supposed to be, I find it to be a decent and overall fairly, certainly not perfect, but a well-intentioned and a nice introduction to the character, which, if you remember at the time, was far from a household name. And this movie, does a very good and serviceable job of introducing this character to the public at large to get him ready for the big team,
Yep.
the big Avengers. And so I find it Kenneth Branagh directed a pretty entertaining film again, and it introduces him this iteration of Thor. Before he was, and yes, he was messed up, and yes, he had his faults. He wasn't a complete clown yet, and overall, I thought it was a pretty entertaining film.
It's a little higher up on my list, but yeah, I agree with everything you said. It's not the greatest Marvel film, but I think it has its strengths, and I think it plays to those. I'll talk a little bit more about it when we get to it, but yeah, I take no issue with anything you've said. So
what are we, 12?
We are at 12. Yeah.
Go for it. Guardians
of the Galaxy.
Oh, cool.
Guardians of the Galaxy Part 1, which is a great movie. A lot of fun. I freely admit that as many times as I've watched this film, and as much as I think it's a really decent entry in the Marvel universe, much as I talked about how the other Avengers films and the other standalone films helped reinform and bolster my feelings towards the first Avengers movie, the other appearances of Peter Quill have brought this film down in the ranking for me, because I know that this character's story arc in this movie is a zero-sum game. He's not actually going to grow from this. He's going to still be a botard throughout his other appearances. And so it's brought this film down. The good stuff in it, like Rocket and Drax and all that stuff, is still awesome. But I really cannot stand what the MCU has done with Peter Quill. If some of these characters weren't so obtuse, like Shang-Chi or some of the Eternals, I might actually step out there and be like, yeah, Peter Quill is a different kind of obnoxious, but he might be the most hated character for me in the MCU next to Brie Larson's Captain Marvel. Like the way they've written him is just. But I love the plot of this movie. I love the way that they've set up the story. The prison escape is great. The way they set up Drax. Unfortunately, we don't get a lot of payoff with that in Infinity War, but we'll move right past that. But the way a lot of people had an axe to grind with Thanos, so I'll give it a pass on that. But the way they set up the prison escape, the way they meet Rocket, all of that stuff works really, really, really well. And it has a great ending battle that is right up there with some of the most epic stuff that was ever in a Star Wars film. This movie set up a lot of potential. And while certain things got played off real well in Guardians 2, like Yondu before they offed him and stuff, it was like they were firing on all cylinders with all of this stuff, except the fatal flaw, the Achilles heel of this, was continuing to focus all of these movies on all of Peter Quill's emotional baggage and immaturity. Can we did that in the first movie. Can we please move on? No, we can't.
No.
And it's just like, ugh.
Well, I hear you there, man. What was that? That was 12? That was 12.
Yeah, that was 12.
My 12 is Ant-Man.
Uh-huh.
I liked it. I thought this was a fun way to tell the origin, and I liked that they used comedy very well. Plus, the fact that they put Garrett Morris as in a cameo sent it over the top for me, because Garrett Morris, as we all know, played Ant-Man on the old Saturday Night Live sketch.
Right.
And they put him in there. It was like, well, I can't believe they did that. It was like, sure, we would all have rather seen Edgar Wright's Ant-Man, but we're not going to get that. This is studio corporate 101, where they're not going to they're not going to bring in a wild stallion like that, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
They want a guy they can control, and they did. And yeah, but they still made a fairly entertaining film, largely because of the cast, especially Paul Rudd.
And what was Edgar going to do?
Well, I've heard he had some crazy ideas, some of which I'm not so sure to work for Ant-Man, but I've never seen it. But people who have seen his, like he had like was there some kind of little trailer or something real that was at a con right before this was when he was still on the project, or maybe it was some kind of presentation. People say that it looked like he was going to do something really crazy way out there. And if you've seen Edgar Wright films, you'd know that that's probably the case.
Right.
Which I have, and he's it would have been different. but they're not gonna. Studios aren't, they're not. They don't take chances.
Oh yeah, yeah.
This is still a corporate controlled product after all. So, but I enjoyed it. And you've already talked about it. It's a fun film. I think you talked about it. Anyway,
Yeah.
11.
My 11 is Ant-Man and Wasp.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah. I was happy to finally get away from a carbon copy of the Iron Man plot. Like, in other words, they had a lot of characters I really liked in Ant-Man, but I wanted to see them in their own original story, and not a. I really do feel like Iron Man is just. Ant-Man is just a skin placed over Iron Man movie wise. Like it's like what. Ant-Man and Wasp, I think, has a lot more going on in it. I like the characters that are introduced. I love the way they did the Wasp suit and the Ant-Man thing. I agree with you that when you look at the movie, sometimes you're like, shouldn't it be called the Wasp guest starring Ant-Man?
Yeah.
But by the time you get to the latter half of the film, he's very much Ant-Man in the movie and stuff. And yeah, I liked this film, and I don't know why, but I find it rewatchable. I find it rewatchable in the same way that I find Deadpool 2 rewatchable. I don't know.
Well, I agree. That is rewatchable.
Yeah. So the whole thing with his friends at the security company, and I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm shallow. I don't know. I don't think I'm shallow, but in this case,
No, it's
maybe
just
I
fun,
am.
man.
Yeah.
It's just a fun kind of a romp.
That bit where he's like, the suit's malfunctioning, and he looks like a little kid in a hoodie at the school, and she won't fit, like, and I think that they have good chemistry, him and Evangeline Lilly. They play off each other real well. So and Michael Douglas, I think, is really good in this movie. So it's a whole thing.
And it did show us a little bit of him being Ant-Man in his own younger days, and with Michelle Pfeiffer as Janet Van Dyne.
Yeah.
Which, again, something that always really pissed me off about the MCU is that they didn't start out, with Hank Pym and all that stuff. So to get at least a little tidbit of that was something. So I enjoyed it as well.
Yeah, and they're saying it in the chat. I love the whole truth serum bit. I love the whole Baba Yaga, like all that stuff. Just I know that's shallow window dressing. I know,
it's fun.
but it all adds to what for me was a unique, fun and narrative experience. It was. I think some Marvel films need to be serious, and I think some need to be lighthearted. And in this case, I think this was one of those nice refreshers that we needed before things got really heavy, and I think it did it well. So
I hear you, man. My number 11 is one we talked about, so we don't have to go too far into it. Spider-Man No Way Home. I find it to at least to be the most entertaining of these films. I didn't really, I just found it to be, I've only seen it the one time. I saw it in the theater. I haven't bought it or anything like that. Maybe I don't know if I ever will. I don't buy any of these things anymore. I was watching one time, but my biggest problem with this film, because it is pretty entertaining, is, and everyone really loved it, and I had a lot of things I liked about it, but it's all predicated on Doctor Strange acting like an irresponsible idiot. If you take that out of the plot, you don't have a story. You don't have anything happening, and I can't stand that. It's always bugged me that Doctor Strange was an absolute moron that caused all this to happen in the first place, and he totally could a little bit of better writing, and it wouldn't have been that. It wouldn't have been that way, and you still could have found a way to make that same story without Doctor Strange being a dumbass.
Yeah,
and I hated that.
I did too. I agree with you wholeheartedly. I did enjoy the film while I was watching it, like you and I've talked about. But there are some writing problems within the narrative like that make it a head scratcher when you start to apply your brain. And I don't think any movie that falls apart when you apply your brain should be given a pass. Like, obviously we haven't lambasted this movie. It's in the middle of our lists.
Oh no, it's high up. I like it. I might like it again if I watch it more. More if I like it again.
Yeah, but it's I think this movie's most important contribution to all of this. And I say this not with my tongue in my cheek, but some people might think so. I'll just reiterate. This movie is proof positive that Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man will be redeemed in the future, just like Timothy Dalton's. So
There you go. You know, we're at the top 10 now.
We are.
Yeah, we have reached the top 10. Like I said, I tweaked my list a little bit because I don't know, things change and it's really tough to make the decisions on these rankings. Everything in my top 10 and up is a 3 or better as far as ranking wise. So what is your number 10 all-time favorite MCU film?
My number 10 is Thor Ragnarok. Purely, and you'll notice it's right next to Ant-Man and Wasp, Guardians, and Guardians 2. These are the funny ones. These are the ones that hit me at the right time, and I don't have a problem with occasionally, much like the comic books would do, you would have a story cycle in the comics for a character where it would be serious. Then you would have a 1 or 2 issue story that was more lighthearted. Then they'd get back into another heavy crossover thing or whatever. I took Thor Ragnarok that way. I know that they did mix in the big heavy part, which was Asgard getting destroyed. I get that. But the movie for me was so much fun and a nice refresher. And I'm a sucker for the 80s music and the 80s, style. I do think, by the way, Melinda and I talked about this. We don't think it's going to work a second time. We feel like that Taika Waititi guy has gone too far up his rear end, and Thor: Love and Thunder is going to be a disaster. It's going to over-index on this, and it's going to break itself. But
that could well be.
Yeah, but for me, Thor Ragnarok was a very entertaining experience. It was fun. Part of the reason I got so excited about it was because I thought it was a masterfully done trailer where Hulk comes out in that arena and Thor's like, yes, like he thinks he's gotten out of hot water.
That was a great scene. I love that scene.
Yeah. And I love Jeff Goldblum in it. And I even really like Kate Blanchett. Like, I've always liked Kate Blanchett as an actor. Oh, God. Dude, I'm so glad you brought that up. I've always loved Kate Blanchett as an actress. I never thought she was ugly, but I never thought if she was hot. Really? I didn't rate her that way. Like, it was just kind of like,
gotcha.
Until this movie. And then I was like, ooh, somebody finally found the combo that makes her just rocking hot. So all of that together, the whole thing with Doctor Strange in the beginning was gold. Like that
was a good scene. Yeah.
Oh man, this, there was so much going for it. And I respect wholeheartedly all the people who don't like Ragnarok from a comic book perspective. Like, I get it. But as a movie in the MCU, for what it is as its own continuity, I enjoyed this movie a lot.
Look, that's why I'm so conflicted, dude. I have it lowly rated because I hate what it does to all the clown stuff that we talked about earlier. But the first time I watched it, I loved it and found it unbelievably entertaining, and I still find it very entertaining. It's just that I hate the ramifications of it, and I'm very, very conflicted and inconsistent on it. I'm way all over the place.
I'm like you. I don't like the ramification. I think, like I said, if we're talking about it as a comic book analogy, this should have been Thor's one funny movie, and they shouldn't have kept drilling down on the joke. I think if we'd had it this one time,
fair enough.
Yeah. But you're right. We're about to talk about some films that have a lot of great stuff in them. But we're
in the top 10 now, so yeah.
Yeah, but they do Thor a disservice. Some of these films will do Thor a disservice coming off this movie.
Oh, yeah, true.
Because corporate Hollywood learns the wrong lessons. They don't know how to be moderate in their application of things. They don't understand that balance is always preferable and less is more. They don't. So
no, I hear you there, dude. My number 10 is the original, of course, Doctor Strange. We're now into the origin territory of a lot of these films, and I'm not a big fan of having to tell an origin, but let's be honest. On Doctor Strange and Thor and Captain America, some of these characters, there was a necessity. There was no getting around telling the origin. You may as well do it and do it well. Did I have a few qualms here and there with how they did it in this film? Yes, but down to the excellent casting. And I just thought they did certainly it's a little abbreviated, but I found they did a very credible, very entertaining job of telling the origin of Doctor Strange, being very close to comics and giving us some pretty good, dazzling Ditko-esque type visual fun into the bargain. So I found that I've always found this to be a very entertaining film.
Yeah. This film is very high on my list, so we're going to be talking about it a little more later. But cool. This film has ascended in my list in the last 2 years, and
wow,
yeah, I have a lot of things, a lot of thoughts about this movie. Yeah,
excellent. We'll go for your number 9 then.
My number 9 is Captain America: First Avenger.
Love it.
I have the 27x40 movie poster hanging in my studio. As much as I have a problem with the post Bucky rescue montage as part of the latter half, that's where the film kind of breaks for me, as we've talked about before. The whole beginning of the movie is gold, and the very end of the movie is gold. It's that bit right in the middle where after he rescues Bucky, he then goes on this World War II montage where he's not actually fighting German soldiers. They're fighting like laser gun stormtroopers with like laser gun tanks. And that's where everything breaks. Yeah. That's where everything breaks down for me.
Right.
Because I'm like, Captain America fought the Germans. And while, yes, Hydra was trying to do stuff, I think the movie would have had more impact if the scientists had finally cracked the code on the Tesseract and made the flying wing as the one big weapon they were going to try out first. Because if you got laser tanks and you got laser soldiers and you got Red Skull walking around saying that Hitler's a nobody and whatever, which he did, then why hadn't he already taken over the Third Reich with all that material and equipment? He could have wiped the floor. So it broke the movie because Disney was afraid to depict Nazis in First Avenger, which is insulting to the character of Captain America and his origin. It's like, you're going to bother to put him back in World War II, but not actually show World War II. I'm not saying we need a Saving Private Ryan in this film, but you certainly don't need to sanitize it that much for God's sake.
It was Disney was in charge at this point, right? But the reason I ask is because right around the same time, they did for the Disney animated for the Disney cartoon channel, whatever it was. The Disney animated channel, they did a great cartoon that I love called Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes. And the same deal they did. Now, again, other than one thing, I didn't like how they did this. They basically, you thought, again, it was almost like they were probably getting the same orders from on high. They never mentioned, quote unquote, not Nazi Germany or anything like that. And they do go back to World War II because they got another cap in it. It's almost like you think it was the country called Hydra.
Right.
In that, there's absolutely not, even in this movie, they at least mentioned the Yazis and Hitler. But in that cartoon, they weren't even allowed to mention it. It was Disney doing that because they're a bunch of idiots.
Yeah, they're real idiots. And again, I want everybody to understand, like, I think this movie is great.
No.
I'm simply pointing out that as somebody who, as you know, Mike, is very much involved in World War II history and learning, and has a great appreciation for it, and has a great appreciation for pulp characters from the 30s and 40s, like Captain America, who are in a World War II context. This Hydra, leaning into this whole Hydra laser gun trooper thing, is a big sticking point for me with this movie.
No, I got you.
So
it was Disney's fault for sure.
It totally is. But I want to be clear that everything with Captain America and the Red Skull at the end with the flying wing was just as good as the first 2/3 of the movie. So all that stuff is stellar. There's just that one 15 to 20 minute bit right there that just it sticks in my craw. So,
I got you. No, I got you, man. My number 9 is, where is it? It is well, we've talked about it already, I think, haven't we? Guardians of the Galaxy Part 1. Vol 1. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so not much to say about it because you've pretty much handled it. But again, highly entertaining film. I mean, the dance-offs kind of shit like that really got on my nerves. But I love the music and I love the characters. And this is just, I mean, certainly I'm not going to say it's Star Wars for its time, but for this generation, it was a Star Wars type of feel for it. It was, in terms of that kind of a film that comes out of nowhere type deal and is space ship oriented things like that. So mixed in with the MCU, highly entertaining film.
Mhm.
So number 8, sir.
My 8 is Thor.
Oh, cool.
And the reason that it wouldn't have ever been this high a few years ago, but I rewatched it a few times over the last few years, and I've reevaluated, and I do like the fact that Kenneth Branagh understood how to capture Asgard as well as he did, and I also like the fact that he took Thor on a hero's journey.
Yeah.
And I do think the moment is really beautiful at the end, because they do set it up very nicely, where Odin is not banishing him entirely. He knows that that his son will redeem himself, and he gives him that chance by whispering into Mjolnir. And it all comes around and it all pays off, because Thor learns that it's not about the power and the glory. It's about being willing to put yourself in harm's way for the lives of innocent people. It's not about you. And it's a beautiful moment where he stands in front of the destroyer and talking to Loki, and he's just like, don't hurt these people. Take my life if you have to, but killing these people will gain you nothing. And it's just this really, really beautiful moment. And then, of course, the universe rewards Thor for discovering what it means to truly be a selfless hero, and it brings him back. And much in the same way that Steve Rogers jumps on the grenade not knowing it's a dummy grenade,
right?
It's that kind of thing.
Yes.
And it's a beautiful moment. And so there's a lot to love in the film as well throughout the movie, as far as like his humor, being a fish out of water on Earth, and being clueless about the fact that all that stuff is played really well. They were still restrained back then, because it was still the Paramount era of the MCU, and so like Hawkeye is basically just like a tactical dude with a bow and arrow for no reason, and stuff like that. But it's it's early on in the MCU's life cycle, but I do think Thor's story is handled pretty damn well, and done in a cinematic way with a great actor playing him. That's why it's my number 8. So
well. No, that's a great choice, and it is excellent, sir. My number, where were we? We're at 7, right? Mm-hmm. 7. My number 8. I'm sorry, like you just said. Okay, my number 8 is let's get the picture. Captain America: Civil War.
Oh, okay.
I hate with a passion the comic book.
Yep.
Of this fiasco called Civil War, and I was pretty upset. At this point when they announced that I liked the Russo brothers, I was pretty upset that they were going to be going that way.
Mm-hmm.
But then, obviously I was going to give it a shot. I don't consider it to be a perfect film,
right?
But in fact, the opening action sequence in wherever that was, I forgot what country. It's a bit clunky, to be perfectly honest with you. But after that, there are no less than 2 or 3 really great action sequences. One in particular gave us the first on-screen superhero versus superhero battle that we've ever gotten, to the degree that you got out of comic books.
Yep.
And I'm going to tell you, again, flaws and all, I one of the things that that take with you as a child, as a kid who loves comic books, it makes no sense, but you love to see superheroes fight.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you just do. All my friends do. Everyone I ever known who loved comics, who's stronger, Thor or Hulk? We love to see the Thing in the Hulk fight. We want to see Captain Marvel, the real one, fight Superman. Whatever it is, we like to see superheroes fight, even though we want them to be, because they're always going to fight, then they're going to be friends later, because they're always friends, but they're going to have their squabbles, and that's a fun little thing for the kids love in comics. I'm sorry. So when I'm watching the big airport battle, which I thought was so beautifully done, in my opinion anyway, I'm sitting next to a friend of mine. We did not know what was going to happen, spoilery at all, in this film. So we're sitting there, and we go to all of these movies together. So we're sitting next to each other. And when Ant-Man says, I've got something, we did not know what was coming. when as I'm saying, you know what I'm talking about. And we both looked at each other and we were like, next is no, he's not gonna do it. No, he's not gonna be giant. No, not Giant Man. And when he went Giant Man, we flipped out like freaking 8-year-olds. It was just, I can't describe it. There's no logic to it. It's just, my God, I'm getting to see superheroes fight each other like it would be right off the page of a comic book. The story is, has a lot of dark elements too. I think it's good enough. The movie doesn't feel like it really is very complete, and many things could have been different, but there are other really good sequences too. There's a lot of great character stuff in this film. It's great for setting up. It's kind of a kick the can down the road setup type of a deal, but it does it very well. And there's a lot. I mean, this film is filled with tons and tons of great character moments and introductions to Black Panther being one of the great moments. I don't like the way they changed the character of Zemo from comics, but you can't have everything. But that, and then that airport battle, it's just a great film. I love it. And even though it has a lot of things wrong with it, I can watch it over and over again. Even though I don't like this iteration of Spidey, as we talked about, it's still well done. And I think he's pretty enjoyable in this, I think.
Yeah, it's a film that's a little higher on my list only for my just constant admiration for the Captain America character.
Yeah,
and
Team Cap here, buddy.
Yeah, and again, it also should it also should explain to everybody how much of a gut wrench it is for me to have to put First Avenger lower than I want to, or well, not not want to, but you know what I mean.
No, I got you. Sure.
But First Avenger always feels like an Adonis with a gaping wound. Like, it's just like, oh, somebody hurt this beautiful specimen. But yeah, Captain America: Civil War is a little higher on my list, but again, it's all for a lot of the same things, and I have some of the same criticisms. I think the movie is 20 minutes too long. I think some of the character motivations are a little messed up. But by and large, they at least try to say something with this movie. And
when it's moving, it's amazing though.
Yeah, and I love some of the dialogue scenes in this movie, which we talk about, like all the arguments, the conceptual arguments between some of the characters, and the discussions they have about the establishment versus the right to choose and all this kind of stuff. And it's a film that really tries to tackle big ideas, and so for that I respect it, even with some of its missteps. Yeah,
absolutely. What is your number? That was my 8. So what is your 7?
My number 7 is Avengers: Infinity War, but I want to preface this by saying that I have a hard time figuring out whether or not Infinity War versus Endgame, because they're both kind of, so it's like but yeah, Avengers: Infinity War for me is a very, very exciting entry. I think it's a very well written movie in many respects. We could argue that there may be plotting problems with having the time stone and not using it more to try and solve the issue before it becomes an issue, but I know there are people who say that all that stuff is actually rationalized. I don't know if that's really true, but by and large, I love the character interactions in the film. I like the way they've kept all the plates spinning properly from the previous movies. It seems like they've got everything kind of lined up, which is why this film, I think, was so successful. It's such a big film, and yet everybody gets their important role to play. I don't think anybody that's in Infinity War gets lost in the background. I think they're all integral in some way to the plot. So
I wanted more Cap, but I still love the movie, and we'll hear from it again.
Yeah,
but I always want more Cap. So
yeah, me too. Like, you can't satisfy me in that regard. So
that was 7.
That was my 7. Yeah.
Okay. Well, my 7, strangely enough, is Avengers Endgame. Now, to hear me talk about this movie, you think I hate it. You know why? Because I do hate it, and I also love it.
Right.
I hate this movie. This is probably the most different. This is probably the most. You can't modify the word unique. Unique is by itself. So this is a unique film. I've never hated and loved a movie at the same time so much in my life. This movie has some of the most unbelievably wonderful, brilliant, touching bits, fantastically entertaining bits, wonderful character bits, gigantic set piece, just stand up and cheer moments. It's got some of the greatest moments of, building it all built up to this. It's got so many wonderful things in it, and yes, it is filled with horribly bad decisions that I can't put it higher. I really used to have it a little bit lower. I just watched it again today. In fact, there's so many things I love. I don't have to cut it off before that ending with that horrible what Captain America, that he would not do what he did, in my opinion. It was filled with a lot of other really stupid mistakes. But when a movie can touch you that much and do all these wonderful things for you, like just watch it and that big battle. I don't even know where to begin with how many great things are in this movie. The bad ones are there. I think that says a lot about this film for me to put it high up like this, considering all the things that I hate in it. But my God, I can't lowly rate a film that when I'm sitting there in that theater for the first of 5 times that I went to see it, when that Thor's hammer starts to lift up and it flies and hits Thanos and flies back, and we see that Thor's hammer in Captain America's hand, I just lost it.
Yeah.
And then if that wasn't killer enough, of course, I love when Thor says, "I knew it." And then, we get this wonderful, because I'm just a Captain America freak, folks, just the way it is. And when Captain America's standing there with the shield all beat up, it's destroyed, and that whole army's coming at him, and it looks like Thor's on the ground and Iron Man's on the ground, and there's nobody else, and he's about to take them all on. I can do this all day, but he doesn't say it, fortunately.
Right.
And then we get that little bit. First of all, some of the most wonderful music in all of the MCU films are in this scene when you hear that little scratchy voice of Sam come through. Cap, on your left.
Yep.
And the magicians all start opening the portals, and they all start coming through some great, great music. And then when they just stand there and they're about to go to battle, and when he says, "Finally, something we waited for I don't know how many years it was, 10 years at least. We waited because it was like 2018 or whatever it was. We waited a decade to hear Captain America say, 'Avengers, assemble!'" And right there, I can't entirely be cruel to a film that gave me so many wonderful bits, even though the time travel stuff is annoying. So many things that they did, the whole entire time travel plot. I don't think they had to do that to what Black Widow the way they did it. There are a lot of problems I have. I could go on and on about things I hate in this movie, but the stuff I love has to be celebrated. It's frustrating. Don't get me wrong, because there's a lot of these films I have almost nothing bad to say about them. I have more problems with this one than some of the garbage ones that I don't even like at all. And yet the stuff that I love is off the charts.
Yeah. It's my number 6. So we can keep talking about it.
Keep going then.
Yeah.
Keep going.
It does have, like you and I talked about, it does have some issues that have to be addressed. I'm like you. I don't think that Captain America would shirk his responsibility to Bucky and his friends and
no way.
Falcon and just leave and do all that. At the same time, filmmakers can be master manipulators, and in the back of our minds, we all wish, just like Steve Rogers does, that he could be with Peggy. And we all know that Chris Evans was wanting to be done, and I'm sure Disney wanted to stop paying him because his salary kept increasing. And so that was a way to get him out of the film, just like they found a way to get Robert Downey Jr. out of the films. And so, yeah, as broken as it is, it's like, well, they broke it and then gave us something that we always wanted to see, but didn't think that we were ever going to get. And even though we didn't think we would ever get it for reasonable reasons, they gave it to us anyway because they got rid of the character. So it's this whole weird, like you said, it's a mix of emotions. It's like this kind of, and then of course the whole end battle, it's great and motivated, but for one engineered moment that didn't earn. You know?
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. The girl power bit was very cringy.
It was, and it was totally
Unnecessary.
totally unnecessary. We already had Wanda just thrashing on Thanos.
The girls were fighting as much as the guys. You didn't need that crap.
We didn't need it at all, and it was a mess. And but again, thankfully, it was a short-lived little mess.
Yeah,
it was,
yeah.
You know, and as odd as this is going to sound, you know what? I've never cared what people think of me when I say shit. So why am I?
Go for it, dude.
Endgame is the only time in the MCU, and when I say this, I mean the final battle. I do not mean the preceding scenes, but in this final battle, it was the only time that I didn't have a problem with Captain Marvel. Like Brie Larson's Captain Marvel. There was
That's
the
fine.
only.
I didn't either.
It was the only time I didn't like the way they tried to wedge her into the beginning with Thor being like, I like this one, and it's like Thor's trying to tell the audience, I know we all don't know who this person is,
but you gotta like her because I said so.
You gotta like her, you know, like, and she's a pain in the butt the whole time because she's dismissive and she's always talking about how Earth isn't important, all this kind of stuff. So they've really done a bad job of endearing the audience to her. And yet in this one bit, I really do enjoy the part where she shows up and blows up the whole ship and then finds Peter Parker to get the thing. And he's like, I'm Peter Parker. And she's like, hey, Peter Parker. And I'm like, wow, it's the one time you've delivered a line where you're not a complete
almost she had some personality in that scene for a second.
Yeah, yeah.
But her best scene is like my buddy Nick Weiser, who always likes to play this scene. Thank you for the $2 super chat, buddy. He says, no one mentions it when Thanos decked Captain Marvel. He plays it every time someone gives him a super chat on his channel. And that is a wonderful scene, her getting the crap knocked out of her because she's annoying. But I agree with you, actually. At least that scene when she says, hey, Peter Parker, is like, oh, well, okay, wait a minute. You almost sounded like you had a personality. Also, when she's arguing with Rocket at one point.
Yeah.
But we all know she really doesn't have a personality.
No, she doesn't. And the only reason I like the part where she argues with Rocket is because it's motivated by the fact that Rocket looks
he's messing with her.
He's like, oh, you don't have time to help Earth, but you had time to go get a haircut. You know, like that part I thought was fun too. But
that was funny.
Yeah, but also they were smart enough, I think, in reshoots.
Keep her limited.
Keep her limited and not have her be the coup de grace on Thanos. Like,
I thought they were going to let her kill Thanos. It's so much better that Thor decapitates him.
Although it doesn't make a lot of sense why she can't.
Well, she's pretty powerful. Whether we like it or not, she's quite OP. But he does have the gauntlet at one. No, when he punches her, he's got the gauntlet in one hand, doesn't he? So,
right. He pulls the power stone off of it and then hits her with
the power stone.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
So I get it.
Was nice.
Yeah, I get it. But at the same time, it's like we just watched her blow up basically a Star Destroyer.
Yeah.
So like, why? You know, But I get it. They needed to give the real Avengers their moment to win.
Right.
So,
At least she was useful in this. Now make yourself useful if nothing else. Yeah. So anyway, I just can't stand her. But what is your number? Oh, hey, we're at the top 5 now.
Mm-hmm.
Number 5 for you, sir.
Well, what was your number 6?
Was that number 6? Oh, my number 6 was. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. You're right. I'm sorry. Thank you, dude. Mm-hmm. Without you, I'd be lost, man. You don't see how I am. My number 6 is Avengers: Age of Ultron.
Oh, okay.
This is a much, in my opinion, undeservedly beleaguered film.
Totally agree.
I don't understand the hatred this film gets. I do have issues. I don't like necessarily that Tony Stark and Bruce Banner create Ultron. I've said that many times. I wish they just had introduced Hank Pym earlier into the universe. That said, this is a balls to the wall, highly entertaining superhero film. It's filled with great superhero set pieces, but that's never enough. You got to have great character moments, and they never skimp on those. I'm not the biggest Whedon guy all the time,
right?
But I was a fan of Buffy and Firefly and stuff like that. He's good for this sort of thing. It maybe kind of wore a little thin later, but this is just, I mean, this movie has I mean, man, you get to see Hulk fighting Iron Man in the Hulkbuster armor.
Yep.
That's just that's such a great scene.
Yep.
And they've got again, I talked about it earlier when I got to see like Civil War or whatever, or Endgame. I want to see, when I watch a superhero movie, call me crazy, I want to see superheroes doing superhero things.
Mm-hmm.
This movie is filled to the brim with that, plus with a very good story with a lot of great characterization. I love the scene when we get introduced to Vision, because I'm a big Vision fan.
Mm-hmm.
They handled the twins kind of okay, you know, although, you know, I'm not so sure they should have killed Quicksilver, and I'm someone who hates Quicksilver in the comics. But I found this movie entertaining from beginning to end. I love the long big battle in Sokovia, where they made where Whedon did something smart here. He said, whatever else he is in real life, he said, I want to show superheroes, because he said this before the film, because he was talking about a certain other piece of disaster form crap called Man of Steel, which showed Superman just knocking buildings all over people. He said, not fake Superman, by the way.
Right.
He goes out of his way in the film, so superheroes rescuing people and helping people, which is what superheroes do. This movie has a lot of that in it intentionally. So yes, you can criticize it, but I really love it.
We're going to see this movie again because I haven't mentioned it yet. So
cool. We'll go to your number 5 then.
My number 5 is Iron Man, the first one.
I am Iron Man. I had to vamp till I got to it, of course. Where are you?
Oh, yeah. This, of course,
love it.
My Iron Man and I have a very brief history, but a history nonetheless. When I was a child, for I don't remember if it was a birthday or Christmas, the Secret Wars toy line had come out.
Oh yeah, I know you like those.
Yeah, and I only ever had one figure, but it was the one I wanted more than any of the others, and it was Iron Man. And I just thought he was the coolest looking character, and I knew about him, even though I hadn't read any of the comics. The other one that I wanted was Spider-Man, but I never ended up getting him. My brother had Captain America, so we had Captain America and Iron Man, ironically, which, you know, comes to a head in this whole MCU thing. But so Iron Man, when I heard they were making a movie, and I was like, wow, they're actually getting that off the ground, like they're actually going to make a movie. And then when I heard it wasn't going to be Tom Cruise. I was like, oh, thank God. And then I went to see it. I didn't know what to expect because, Mike, you and I both know we've been through a lot of decades of bad comic book movies. I mean, there have been a lot of them. And, and you're not off the hook, my friend, because like I said, we're going to be doing our recollaboration about the Shadow.
I'm ready, brother.
As our follow-up to the Pride of the X-Men.
I'm ready, buddy.
Oh, man, that's going to be a fun conversation. It's going to be a tough edit. But anyway, but yeah, so I went and saw it, and I was blown away at how well it was handled. I was shocked that they even did
Me too.
The first appearance armor in the very beginning of the film, you know, where he gets out of the cave, and it's kind of this homage to the original armor. I was like, wow, this movie's actually firing on all cylinders. This is really, really good. And I walked away from that film I didn't even know that they were trying to set up an MCU. I just thought I walked into it like you walked into 89 Batman or Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man or whatever. You just walk in not knowing what you're about to see, and you know.
Yeah.
And dude, it was nobody did. And I thought it really kicked ass. I thought it was a great superhero movie. I was like, wow, this is really damn good. And so yeah, that's why it's so high on my list. I really think
started it all.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. We'll hear from it again, man.
Yeah.
That was 5.
Yeah.
My number 5 we've already spoken of. And that is, of course, Captain America, the First Avenger.
Please talk about it.
Well, again, you've handled most of it. All I will say is I love, again, origin stories have to be done sometimes. This is as beautiful a telling of a comic book superhero's origin as ever has done. That first half hour and a half or whatever is just, I can watch it over. I mean, I love the whole film, and even though we don't disagree, I think some of that. My problem with that montage thing you're talking about at the end is it needed. You could have still had a little bit of that, but it needed another 10 or 15 minutes to establish that Captain America had been throughout the whole war. You
Right.
come away from that thinking he'd been Captain America for 20 minutes.
Yeah,
And that was a bit of a
exactly.
problem. But aside from that, I love every bit of this film. I'm going into this, I was like, he was, even though I don't like those Fantastic Four movies, he was kind of great as Johnny Storm. This guy can't be Captain America, though. Johnny Storm and Captain America aren't the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And he and Joe Johnson had said some dumb crap in some interviews. So I was like, I'm not even going to go see this. I wasn't going to go see it. And I was doing the show, and I went on the Facebook on the show's group page. I said, and asked some friends, should I go watch this thing? And they said, yeah, go watch it, you sissy. I said, all right. And I went and, of course, loved it and dearly loved this film. And for all the aforementioned reasons, it's just an amazing origin with a perfect cast, a great casting as Captain America. Whatever I think of Chris Evans, the person, he is Cap.
Right.
I mean, it's amazing to me. So I love it.
Well, like from the moment we got to number 9, we're within, because Captain America: First Avenger was number 9 for me.
Oh yeah.
All these films that I've been talking about from 9 on, the reason they rate so highly is because for me, I feel that they actually deal with big, tough yet important ideas about humanity and about principles and what it means to be a decent being and all that kind of stuff, and they tackle with and wrestle with these big ideas, and Captain America: First Avenger does wrestle with those. It does tackle those head on for this character and for the people around him who are affected by his principles. And so in that respect, like I've said, it's a stellar film. So I totally understand why it's your number 5.
Love it, man.
Mm-hmm.
What is your number 4?
4. My number 4 is Captain America: Civil War, because it continues to deal with those big ideas. It continues to deal with, there are problems with this movie.
Mm-hmm.
This is a film where the things it talked about successfully, I feel compensated for some of the character problems and pacing problems that it had. I don't quite believe that Tony Stark, for example, knowing that Bucky was an unwitting puppet of Hydra, would lose all of his composure and
Right.
I don't believe that he would actually do that. But again,
Cool off after a while.
Yeah, I also, like you, didn't like the whole idea of the Civil War comic book series, so I wasn't sure how I was going to receive this movie. I remember when that whole comic book thing came out, I was like, this sounds dumb. But in the case of this movie, I really loved all the conversations that they were having about, like when Vision is going, I believe there's a causality because power attracts conflict and challenge and all this kind of stuff. And I liked all the stuff between Tony Stark and Steve Rogers from an ideological perspective. I thought a lot of that was handled real well, where both of them wanted the same things, but they wanted to come at it from different strategies, and they came to blows over it. And there was a lot here. There was a lot here that I loved, including the excellent window dressing of the airport fight and all that stuff. The introduction of Black Panther, the introduction of their Spider-Man, the burgeoning friendship between Winter Soldier and Falcon.
Yeah, that was good too. Yeah,
all that stuff was really good. I liked the way Scarlet Witch and Vision were handled. I liked the way they brought Hawkeye back into the story. I thought its strengths outweighed a lot of its weaknesses. But it is 20 minutes too long. Zemo is a little wah wah. Like there's stuff like that doesn't work. But I'm a sucker for the big ideas that it's trying to present.
No, sure.
And so that's why it's my number 4.
It's great. I love it. Makes me want to go watch it right now. My number 4 is, well, you've talked about it, so we don't have to say much. It's Iron Man, the original. Some friends know what a Tom Cruise hater I am. Mm-hmm. And when all these rumors were coming around that it might be Tom Cruise, I was like, wow, an Iron Man movie, and I can't go see it. So when it turned out to be Robert Downey Jr., it's not that I was his biggest fan or his least biggest fan. I was so relieved. But I was still like, yeah, okay, an Iron Man movie. I love the character, but wow, no one's gonna go see that except
Right.
me.
Yeah.
And as Troy put in there this chat earlier with the Iron Man song, I know what you did there. There's a scene very early on when Tony Stark is at the craps table or whatever, when we first meet him, and when he's in the casino gambling or whatever, and they're playing this little song in the background, and I'm busting out laughing. I'm like, oh, can't believe it. And of course, it's a little bitty, the old Marvel superheroes Iron Man cartoon with the old cutout animation.
Yeah.
That theme, it's that theme.
Yep.
And I'm just going nuts. I'm like, oh my God, this movie's got to be good now it was a great telling of the origin. I think it could have been about 10 or 15 minutes longer, to be perfectly honest. I would have taken some more Iron Man scenes.
Yeah.
But it does a brilliant job of setting everything up, and it launched our MCU. And it gave us 10 years of, I mean, not everything perfect, certainly, but 10 years of movies to look forward to. So, and not always the best, but sometimes they were a lot of fun and gave us a lot of great stuff. So that's my 4.
Like you said, I was scared crapless when they were rumoring that Tom Cruise was going to be Iron Man. I cannot stand him. And I was like you. I was like, well, I'm not going to go see that if he's in it. Like there's no way. And thank goodness that didn't happen. With Robert Downey Jr., all I knew of him was that he was like this constant guy that was in trouble for drug addiction. So I was like, okay, well, otherwise I'm ambivalent. So let's see what happens. And man, what a great call.
He owned it. Did a fantastic job. Your number 3?
My number 3 is Doctor Strange.
Indeed. Let's see here. Where are you? Go for it.
I think Doctor Strange is.
Love it.
I have continued to study that movie, and Mike, I gotta tell you, I think this movie is an underrated masterpiece of the entire MCU.
Wow,
Yeah, I really do. I'm not saying that. I think a lot of the criticisms of this film, namely that people think that the villain isn't very well developed. They're missing the point of what the film is. Yeah, they're missing the point of what the film is trying to do, and the film is actually trying to talk about that this guy is not so much he's a misguided fallen acolyte of Kamar-Taj. He's not so much the Darth Vader or Big Bad, and I think people were wanting this.
Dormammu is.
Yeah, Dormammu is, and the fact that the director loved Doctor Strange from his childhood enough that he wanted to bring in not just the mystical element like in Sam Raimi's visuals, but he wanted to infuse those mystical elements and visuals with the actual intellectual elements of Doctor Strange that went in behind it, that Steve Ditko infused into the comic, is what sets him apart from Sam Raimi's execution on Doctor Strange. And so it deals with all of these very big ideas, and it seeds them into what really in the first third of the movie, you forget you're watching a Marvel film. Like the first third, and I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm just simply saying that's the strength of the vision this guy had for the movie. You're seeing this guy who's just been in this horrible accident, but he was this brilliant neurosurgeon, and now he's lost. And it's very stark, no pun intended, as far as like the way he and Christine are falling out over his descent into depression and despair. And then he goes to this place just looking on his last dime for this place that's going to help him. And then when he gets there, he thinks he's fallen in with like Hare Krishnas or something, and he doesn't know what that's going to, and Mordo is seeding all this stuff about, the bill always comes due if you break the laws of the universe. And then at the end, instead of Man of Steel, where all the buildings are falling down, you've got Doctor Strange showing up and literally putting all the buildings back up, and then outthinking Dormammu.
I love it.
I mean, dude, it's an effing brilliant and effing underrated Marvel film. Like, it is such a good movie. And
I agree.
That beautiful moment, that beautiful, beautiful moment where the Ancient One is dying or choosing to move on, and their ghosts are sitting outside the hospital and watching the snowfall, and and she looks at him and she says, you've got to learn the lesson that it's not about you. Like, and it really matches up with the Thor moment that we talked about earlier, where he learns that it's not about him. There's a grander purpose for his skills and abilities. With great power comes great responsibility, kind of thing. And he learns that, and then you have him doing what Doctor Strange does best, which is his massive intelligence and thinking his way through a crisis and solving it that way, and it becomes one of the most unique Marvel movies that stands on its own because of it. It's not, you can watch it without ever having seen any other MCU movie.
true,
and
yeah.
you get it. I just think it's an effing brilliant film. So
Yeah.
anyway,
I don't blame you. I mean, I really love it. So, and it was again, I go back to that thing I keep saying, it's a great origin story.
Yeah.
A very necessary one. And so my number 3 is the Avengers. I this one again, I didn't have the same problem you had with going in, because I was already watching, really engaged in it, and involved and engaged in these films, and I couldn't wait to see it. When after we had 5 films leading up to it. Was it 5? No, 6, right? It was 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, 5 films leading up to it. So I couldn't wait, and it did not disappoint for me. It brought it again. It goes back to what I was saying earlier about the scenes in Captain America: Civil War, what have you. If a movie can make me feel like a kid, and in this case, this is the first one since a certain movie in 1978 that showed me something that I always dreamed of, but never thought I would actually see. In other words, we'd seen attempts to make a man look like he could fly. And in 1978, they made me believe a man could fly. I believed that Superman was personified by the brilliance of Christopher Reeve with the brilliance of Richard Donner, and he was flying. And I bought into it as a 14-year-old kid who loved Superman and was so dazzled. I thought I would probably never have that feeling again, feeling that a comic book character that I love was not only personified by an actor, but doing the things that character can do only on a comic book page or perhaps an animated thing or what have you. Well, the technology grows, and 30 some odd years later, whatever it is, in 2012, I get to see a bunch of superheroes doing superhero type things. Now they're not just flying, they're doing all the other stuff.
Right.
In a big battle. And again, I don't mind that the story is small or is I don't consider it to be weak. I just think it's the last chapter. If you never it fills in the end. It's a 6-part serial. So this is part 6 of a story where everything comes together. I think they did a beautiful job of bringing them all together and ganging them up. And it teases us with some pretty cool scenes at first. The scene with Loki out in Germany there when Cap and Iron Man meet him up, and then with Iron Man and Thor battling, and then we get to see Hulk at the Thor and Hulk battle. It's just on and on and on. We keep getting more and more cool stuff with already these established characters that I love on the screen. And I felt like an 8-year-old the whole time, seeing something I was pretty sure I'd never see in my lifetime. At that point, I didn't think we'd ever see anything like it.
Right.
And so I can't argue with a lot of the criticisms that are ever made about the film, but it'll be near and dear to my heart forever for what it showed us. And of course, yes, they've dazzled us way in a far more dazzling fashion later. But at this point, I didn't think this could happen. I didn't think they could ever do anything like this. There were a couple of people, one of the times I went to see this, old people. I mean, people, and I'm old. So when I can call someone old, they're old.
Right.
It's a bunch of big time senior citizens. And they were sitting there and watching and cutting up and laughing at the movie. I talked to them after the film, and they just loved every second of it. They were in their the 80s, 70s, or whatever.
Right.
And they just thought they were seeing something that at that point no one had ever seen before.
Yeah.
To that extent, the Spider-Man movies by Raimi, whether you like them or not, they had some good effects, and the Garfield ones or whatever. We'd seen a little bit of that, but to see a superhero gang up fighting a big alien army, and with actors that we like as these characters, that was something at that time. That's why it made $1 billion. I mean, no one had ever seen anything like it.
Right.
And so I did love it for that. And unreservedly will always love that film.
Like I said, I have no problem rewatching the movie at all. It has been bolstered and reinforced for me by the subsequent films that are higher in the list. and like I said, the stuff about it that's great remains great and gets better as you watch it. The stuff that doesn't work for me in the movie doesn't get any worse. It just
No, I
doesn't
got you.
go
No,
away.
look, I totally
Yeah.
hear you. Totally hear you. What is your number 2?
My number 2 is Avengers Age of Ultron.
Excellent.
I think that is the most not just underrated Avengers movie, but for me, it is the best Avengers movie, the smartest Avengers movie in many ways. I love what it sets up, but I also love the fact that, strangely, it is the only Avengers film that isn't a beginning, origin, or an end.
That's true.
It's the only one that's an adventure with the Avengers.
Yeah.
And yes, they're trying to seed what's going to happen next somewhat after the credits. But really, this is the Avengers accidentally create Ultron, then they fight Ultron, and they have to defeat Ultron. Boom. And guess what? I thought this film, especially in retrospect, deserves more credit, like we talked about, because so much of what they brought into in the Infinity War Avengers films, those 2 movies, was pulled from this. So much got set up in this for that final conflict. I guess what I'm saying is there was a lot more here that they could mine and work with than it was given credit for at the time. Not the least of which was Captain America shifting Mjolnir. I mean,
we knew he could have lifted it if he wanted.
Oh yeah, totally. But we also know he has class.
Thank you, Eric K. By the way, for the $2 super chat. I'd save that for that one. Yes, Quicksilver could have moved, all not been shot. It could have moved. You think he could have dodged the bullet? Is what you're saying? Well, you could be right. Thank you, buddy. I mean, I wish he didn't kill him. That scene.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, again, by the way, I hate Quicksilver in the comics. I always hate him.
Right.
But I was kind of got to like just when I was getting to like this one. Very Whedon, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Chilling, character like that. But
I agree.
I'm sure with you, but dude, I love this movie.
I agree too, like that. But also, it's one of Captain America's best costumes. He finally has the white sleeves. The only time he has the white sleeves. Now he's had some good costumes in these movies. Like they finally dialed that in, and he's had some good costumes. The World War II one was good. Then the Avengers one wasn't so great, but he's had some good costumes. But this, I think, is one of the most visually striking. And also, I just love like you talked about the Hulk and Hulkbuster fight. The fact that Vision shows up in it. There's really. I also, as much as I wish that they could have introduced Hank Pym sooner, so that he could have been responsible for Ultron. Again, we're talking about an MCU.
Yeah, I wanted it to be Hank Pym. Big time. Hungry Boy, I'm the same with you there.
Exactly. But at least they tried to give Ultron motivation and a personality as a villain. He wasn't just a faceless beast from beyond the stars.
Right.
They tried. And I know some people didn't like the way that James Spader interpreted.
My buddy Hungry Boy didn't like Spader, but I didn't mind it. But I hear you, Hungry Boy.
The more I watch it, the more I lean into
trying to be Stark. So yeah,
right. The more I lean into it, the less weird it gets, I guess is what I'm saying. So
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I love it, man. I love it. Again, I think since he was based upon mostly Stark in a sense, and not Hank Pym and something like that, But
right.
I hear you, Hungry Boy. Look, I understand, but I kind of liked Spader in this one, but I understand. Was that 2?
That was 2.
Okay. My number 2 is Avengers Infinity War.
Nice.
I mean, aside from one little problem,
okay,
I didn't like the crap about the stupid shite with just like I talked about earlier when I talked about Black Panther. Black Panther's annoying sister being able to figure out a way to fix Vision, and Bruce, when she asked Bruce Banner, "Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you and Tony Stark?" She's referring to basically without saying it. Try this, and he goes, "Because we didn't think of it. Yeah, because you're stupid and she's smarter than Tony Stark and Bruce Banner combined.
Well,
I hate that kind of garbage.
you know what? As Mordo said, the bill always comes due. And guess what? That actress has shown her ass so badly behind the scenes. She's probably not going to be
she's gone, but it's the character's fault. I don't ever blame the actors.
Oh, I know that. But what I'm saying is karma's a bitch. And
they'll just put another annoying one there.
Yeah. So,
but yeah, I hear you. Also, one other problem. The scene where we talked about Quill, so we may as well get this out of there.
Oh God, yeah, I couldn't bring this up. I couldn't bring this up.
We can do it though. We can do it if you want.
We can do it. Yeah.
The goddamn Quill scene where he loses it and ruins.
Yes.
I mean, it'd be one thing if they were just fighting and he goes after him and acting, whatever. But when he screws up the chance to stop Thanos, that is horrific writing.
Yes,
I mean, you can make Quill if you want to make him a quippy, horny man-child, and all that stuff. That's one thing. But Quill, he sees what they're doing. Hey, cut it out. We're trying to stop him. Come help us or get out of the way. And he knows he can't. You can make him silly, but don't make him stupid.
Exactly.
He has to know how stupid it is to start punching Thanos. That scene has no place in that movie.
Nope.
James Gunn, who did help write it, mostly Russo brothers. You can't have that scene in the movie. Find some other excuse for Thanos to get free. That's fine. Not something as stupid as you've already read this character, turned this character into a joke like you did to Thor, and like you do to him later. Don't turn him into a complete embarrassment. And you did that, and it is disgraceful writing. Whoever says we're doing this in the script should be stopped. Kevin Feige or somebody should say, look, we can't do that to Star-Lord. I mean, yeah, he's goofy, but he knows that if he doesn't do a thing, they're probably going to beat Thanos right there.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So don't even write yourself into a stupid position like that. That said, the movie is, yes, it doesn't have an ending because it moves into another film. I get that. But that half, it has, other than the things I mentioned, the rest, I love every single bit. Perfect movement. It goes from place to place. I could have had more Cap in it maybe, but it goes from place to place brilliantly, moves from character group to character group brilliantly, has incredible slam bang action, some of the most amazing comic book battles I've ever seen, including the one on Titan, and even the stuff in Thor at Niver-Delir. All that stuff is great. Even the battle in Wakanda. It's everything else is fabulous. It's fantastic and incredibly fun. As a movie standing on its own, it kind of can, but of course you got that ending, so you can't ignore it, except for those nitpicks that I had, which I think are a little kind of huge. But I just love this movie. It's a sprawling spectacular that manages to work that many characters into it and still do it so well.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. The worst line in the film, the most. And when I say offensive, I mean offensive to a legacy comic book geek, is Peter Quill looking at Iron Man and going, I like your plan, but it sucks. And my plan's better. So we're going to go with that.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, get out of the way. Like you have like, just.
And even that's silly. But again, silly. We already know he's silly and they write him poorly.
Right.
The others is so inexcusable that it's not even okay. He's silly, but he's a toddler.
Yes, he is responsible for the
whole universe
of the universe
losing 5 years basically.
Because it's always all about Peter Quill,
and that's why in Endgame he comes back and just gets kicked in the balls. Even though that was kind of an MCU type thing to do. They were doing it for that. I don't even get mad at that scene. He deserved it.
Yeah, he does, and I have no faith in Guardians 3 that it won't also be all about Peter Quill.
Ridiculous.
I can't.
Yeah.
I'm more excited for Ant-Man 3 Quantumania, but again, I haven't said anything disparaging about the Ant-Man series, so I guess that doesn't really have an impact.
No, I got you. So what is well, we all know what our number one is because we have the same number one, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
So our number one of this list, and we did this last year, but we revised the list a little bit and we added 5 movies, everyone. So I'm sorry if anyone thinks this is something of a rehash of last year's show, but I wanted to talk to Michael about a lot of this stuff that we hadn't covered. So we just started doing it in list form again. But and when we're done with this, I have one little quick bonus list for you, but it'll be quicker. It'll be a quickie, but our number one.
Yeah. The Winter Soldier.
This is not. This is, dude. I think I have a couple of years, a while not too long ago. I did a show where a friend of mine and I did our top 25 all-time favorite films of all, just films, in general.
Mm-hmm.
I may have I think I have 2 comic book films on there. 2, and you know how much I love comic books.
Right.
Well, this is one of them.
It's
that high up.
It is. As Melinda said when we watched it the very first time, she looked over at me when it was done and she said, "That was the best Superman movie I've seen in a long time." And
it's incredible.
It is. It is. Again, comic book movies that work, superhero movies that work, understand you have to tackle the big ideas. You cannot get mired in the weeds of details and window dressing, and I don't mean continuity. Continuity is important. You got to make sure your story makes sense. What I'm talking about is too many of these comic book movies get focused on their toys. And when I say toys, I don't mean literal toys. I mean the things that they play with in the story. Like they're more focused on how that let's take Shang-Chi. They're more focused on how those dragons are going to look fighting than they are about telling the audience why all this makes sense. Captain America, Winter Soldier, as you know, Mike, it deals with, can I, as a soldier, can I be a hero without a country behind me? Can I stand up when everyone else is against me? What's my obligation to stand up for the truth when I know I'm completely outnumbered, framed even? How far do I keep going when I have no support behind me? Winter Soldier is one of the best, not just comic book movies ever made, but it's one of just the best movies ever made. It is somehow it managed. I don't know how to say it, but somehow it managed to even transcend its own franchise. It's just a great piece of cinema. It's got all the temporary issues in it. It's an old world guy who's proving to a modern world that the modern world desperately needs some old world horse sense now more than ever. And that the machinations of modern conspiratorial governing and all this kind of stuff are a danger to society. And he has to prove that to Nick Fury. And then Nick Fury's finally on board with him when he sees what has happened. And it's so
many
good.
Great ideas, so many great action set pieces. It does. And this is a film, it spaces them very, very well. I think if you could say one thing that's kind of a little bit of convenience writing is the thing, him meeting Sam the way he does, and Sam happened to be. But, I don't care about that. It's a comic movie. So whatever. I mean, we can make a lot of worse stretches than that from stuff. So I just adore this thing. I mean, this movie, I'm not even going to say that as a criticism because I think it's a perfect film that way.
Right.
I think it's a perfect film, really. And I just, oh my God, I don't know where to begin. Just a couple of great scenes. Because we talked about it before. I think one of my all-time favorite scenes in films is the elevator scene. When Kat walks into the elevator with all these big giant, all these big giant, I don't know, whatever monsters these dudes walking in there at the Shield headquarters, and they all surround him. And of course, it's just I never get enough of that scene.
Mm-hmm.
He knows what they're there for.
Yeah,
he's one of them sweating is. Before we get started, anyone want to get out? I was like, what is it, like 12 of these dudes in there?
Yeah.
Oh, that scene's fantastic. The scene with Fury's attacked on the street. That's a great scene.
I love the moment. I love the moment where they show up at Falcon's house, and they're just like, everybody's trying to kill us. Can you give us a place to stay? Yeah, not everyone. Yeah.
So there's a lot of good, great, quiet moments as well.
Yeah.
When he's escaping, I also love it though too. When he falls out of the elevator, and when he gets on his the motorcycle, and when he takes out a shield jet with just with a shield.
Yeah.
God, man, it's just I love it.
Dude, even the interplay where, you know, it starts from the very beginning during the hostage rescue, where he realizes that he doesn't know if he can trust Wanda because she's got her own orders and agenda, and she doesn't trust anybody. And the whole time she's trying to get him to understand the way the world works now, and he's trying to get her to understand that she's got to start trusting somebody again. And it's a beautiful meeting of the minds with those two characters, where
that is a great relationship.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, so everyone's seen it, of course. I just love this film. This is easily, for me, the best of the MCU, and I've watched it so many times and can never get enough of it. So,
did I say the wrong name? So, Phantom saying you mean Natasha. Did I say something different?
I don't know. Maybe you said Wanda by accident.
Oh crap! Did I say Wanda? I meant Natasha. Everybody.
Yeah,
there's only one woman
that's
in
what
this.
Phantom does.
Yeah, there's only one woman in this movie. It's Natasha
No
Romanoff. Sorry,
right.
Romanoff, Maximoff. They both got red hair. What do you want me to do?
You said Wanda. Your agonizer, please.
So
yeah, we'll put you in the agony booth.
That's right.
So a quick follow-up question, because one of the things we didn't talk about last year, and it's not a big deal, but I was just wondering, did you happen to watch any? There are. I got a very quick list here, folks. There are at least 13 quote unquote MCU TV shows. In other words, if you count it up, including when it was Netflix, and then later the Disney app and what have you, and even on one of them was even on ABC. A couple were on ABC. And we won't go long. I'm just going to talk about it really briefly because, as I said, you say you haven't really watched many of those.
I've only seen WandaVision in its entirety. I saw the first few episodes of Jessica Jones years ago. That's it. I haven't seen anything else.
Okay. Well, if you would indulge me, I'll go
absolutely
watch the first real quick with the list.
Sure.
We don't have to talk about them long, just because we didn't do that last time. I have, unfortunately, sir, watched all, but I'm almost. Let's see. There are 3 shows that I'm incomplete on. I didn't watch the 3rd season of Jessica Jones because it's wow. I mean, the first 2 were bad enough. I didn't watch all of What If. I watched halfway through and I hated it so much. And then I didn't watch all of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because I got bored. So, number 13 is What If, because I'm leaving it at an incomplete, but I'm giving it a 0 because it sucked. That's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I got it number 12 because I don't care. Thought it was boring. I saw all of Falcon and Winter Soldier, and that was the most horrible disappointment of them all because I like those characters. I mean, you imagine that. You should think that would be gold, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
You know, with those 2 characters.
Right.
So let's see. Where's my pictures? Oh yeah. So What If can go screw. That's the wrong one. All right. Well, I got where was that? Oh, I got them all out of order. No wonder. I should put them in order, shouldn't I? Oh well, no one cares. Agents of Schmuck. Okay, again, don't care. Then there was what's next? No, Falcon and Winter Soldier, which I also really hated because it was just such a disappointment.
Yeah.
And more recently, we have Moon Knight, which again was just garbaggio. Just a shite show, my friends. I'm sorry. Just, ugh. And it's tough to put these in any particular order. So that's 13 through 9 right there. Number 8, we have Loki. Oh my God. Spare yourselves, folks. I'm trying to help you all here if you haven't watched any of this crap. Trying to help you. Just doing a service, folks. Loki was bad, dude. Jesus Christ. Oh my God. Let's see here. Next is okay. Oh my God. I forgot one. In between Loki and Moon Knight. Well, we'll just put it next because it doesn't really matter, does it? I mean, they're all crap. Inhumans. Holy
Oh,
shit.
yeah, this is one nobody talks about.
Oh, I'm the one that sat through it. It's me. You were wondering, did anyone watch that? You were probably wondering that to yourself. No, you probably weren't. But in case you were, did anyone watch Inhumans? Yes, it's one dumbass, and he's right here. Next up, Jessica Jones. First season with David Tennant is great in the first season, and you get to see Luke Cage. That's pretty cool. But really, it's not worth a whole lot. And then next up at number, that was number 8, and number 7, we've got. Sorry, where are we at? Oh God, Hawkeye. Why? Why, God? Why did you? It's nothing to do with him. I don't even like. I'm more of a fan of the comic book Hawkeye. I don't really. Renner's okay, but really, I'm just not really that big into it. Number 6. Okay, this probably should be lower, to be honest. I don't know. Maybe I was feeling charitable. I probably hate it so much I forgot to put a picture up there. Hey, I do hate it so much. No, there it is. Iron Fist. Jesus Christ. Second season was so bad, dude. I mean, it was not very good.
Right.
How was Iron Fist not lower? I don't know, Phantom Outsider. I'm just a dummy. What can I tell you? It's still bad, but I don't know. It could be easily lower than the other 3. These are all interchangeable right now. Number 5, the top 5, and I still haven't got on a show I like yet. Does that not tell you something about TV and how Marvel should leave it alone? That's just me. Maybe you like them. I hated WandaVision. I liked it at first. And you've seen this one, so we can talk a little bit about it. I thought it was pretty interesting at first. I just hated the way it ended. She tortures the whole town full of people, but the guy trying to stop her is the bad guy. And there's this scene in there, dude, that made me want to throw up when she's, because he's supposed to be the idiot guy, man, dude that everyone's supposed to hate because he's a guy and that's bad enough, and he's a silly old white dude or whatever. Well, he tells her basically you're you holding these people, basically that you're torturing this whole town, and she says, you're the one with the guns. Yeah, because you're torturing a town full of people. That's why. That's why guns are pointed at you, because you are the bad guy, girl, lady.
Right. Yeah, that is some tone deaf writing, and I know that there's some sort of precedent for the Westview thing in the comics somewhere. I'm not saying that's a justification for anything, but
no, you're right. Yeah.
But some of the writing here was poorly handled, and like I said, it's becoming an increasing problem in these Marvel films, starting with Captain Marvel and going into Endgame, where they're starting to break the suspension of disbelief in their universe in order to try and force certain chess pieces onto certain squares, and that's with the dialogue and everything else, and it's like, just let the story be the story. Why do you have to keep posturing like this?
It's so bad, man. Next up, I really like this guy as Luke Cage. There were some okay moments in each season, but it just had not much of a story at all. He's pretty cool. This is, of course, when it was on Netflix, and he's a good casting, but so what? After a while, you're like, so what? I need more than that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And next up is the Punish guy. I've never been a Punisher fan, folks, to be honest with you. A lot have. He was great when this character. I like him as an actor. This Punisher show's a decent watch. It's okay. It's nothing fantastic. If you're a fan of the character, you might like it a lot more. It's actually an okay show. He's great when he's on the second season of Daredevils, when he truly is good. John Bernthal is worth the watch. So it's okay, but is it like Punisher for the hardcore Punisher fan? I don't know, because I'm not much of a Punisher fan. So in fairness, maybe a Punisher fan would get more out of it. So that's all but 2 shows so far, and there's not anything I'm head over heels in love with, right?
Right.
I'm all giddy about. Okay, let's see here now. Number 2, Defenders. First of all, screw you, Marvel, for calling this the Defenders. You call it Marvel Knights or something if you want to, because they have comics for that. The Defenders are supposed to be Doctor Strange and the Hulk, and maybe sometimes Silver Surfer and somebody. You can leave them out and put Nighthawk and Valkyrie and various other characters. This show was only entertaining because you got a gang up of superheroes. It really wasn't that well done. It wasn't that good. And now, folks, to the only one that's worth its damn salt, Daredevil. Third season leaves a lot to be desired, but the first 2 seasons are brilliant. They're probably one of the best things ever done. And I connect this to the MCU because on this show, they were constantly referring to the Battle of New York and all this stuff before Kevin Feige got his panties in a bunch and started distancing the TV stuff from the movie stuff. They were saying this is in the same universe. And of course, as you know, he makes it a great cameo appearance in Spider-Man No Way Home, which was a really great scene. I love the scene with Matt Murdock.
But why was Feige trying to distance this show from the rest of the MCU?
Fight with the guy running the TV stuff, I think.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, well, it was petty crap from what I've heard. I wasn't there, but as you know, it's something like that. But this first 2 seasons, and look, I did a show a while back where I lamented the Miller Daredevil changed Daredevil, made him super dark, but I kind of loved the first 16 years of his existence when he was a happy-go-lucky superhero in the Marvel Universe. That said, I do love the Miller Daredevil. This is pure Miller and other Daredevil, mostly pure Miller. And the first 2 seasons are great. Yes, he took too long to get in the costume, but I love the show. It is pretty disturbing. It's not for the faint of heart. But the first 2 seasons are great. Third season I have a lot of issues with. I got to try to get me the Blu-rays because you can't. Netflix doesn't have any more, and I believe buy the physicals anyway, right?
Right.
So great show, but that's 13 shows and only one I love. I mean, look at this. They have 28 movies, and at least I like, a little bit close to half of them, right?
Yeah, somebody's asking about Cloak and Dagger, Runaways, and Hellstrom.
Incomplete on those because they were what little I saw of Hellstrom, and the people I know who watched Hellstrom said it was terrible. I didn't watch any of those other ones, so I've been incomplete on those, but they didn't interest me either. So it's sort of like they got a lot of comics. So if you guys liked them, I don't know. I'd be interested to know that, but. No, I did not watch those. I only watched most of those there. So, but anyway, that's the MCU for you. And I don't know going forward, Michael. Do you think there's any chance that we're going to get anything close to the caliber of what was in our top? Anyway, like 15 or. I mean, to me, because I don't think so. But what do you think?
I don't think they have the roster at this point to bring this back around. I do not, aside from Benedict Cumberbatch being Doctor Strange, and hopefully they can get a better writer for his next major appearance. It looks like Wanda's out of it. Spider-Man kind of took an exit unless they're bringing him back for a few more.
They are going to do one of those, but
okay, well, maybe
but
maybe that's something. Black Panther's unfortunately gone, and they're not even going to, recast to keep the character in the show. Ant-Man is still around, and Wasp, but I don't know what their plans are for them either. So, I just don't think that. I don't think they've properly. I don't see a path forward to develop America Chavez or the Eternals to the level of widespread mainstream interest that they were able to get the original roster of Avengers. And that includes up through Wanda and Vision and everybody that went through the Infinity War. Doctor Strange came on the game into the game a little later, but he was still properly developed. The only one that they screwed that up on was their idea for Captain Marvel, and justifiably nobody cared. But everybody else, the Guardians, everybody else, there was some really good energy behind them. I'm not feeling that with everything they've got lining up now. I don't know.
No, I'm the same way. Look, they're not there. There's no way in hell these people can get the Fantastic Four right. I easily come to terms with that a long time ago. Not just them. To be fair, no one else could either. So, but they won't. Only I could, and they're not asking me. And so anything not approved by me is not the real Fantastic Four, everyone. I just want you to all know that. So even though they're going to try it with the MCU, whatever, don't worry. It will not be Clobby approved, so therefore it will not be the Fantastic Four. So you're fine.
Yeah.
You're covered.
And they're getting sloppy with all these references. They're going up their own rear end too quickly with all their own stuff. They're not pushing forward. They keep looking backward. And like when Patrick Stewart rolled out in Multiverse of Madness, and they played the cartoon theme over him, which was like,
remember
what? Like
thingy.
It's like, hey, remember that cartoon about the X-Men that he wasn't in, but he was also in X-Men movies? We're just gonna put all that together and then throw him out there in front of you.
Jesus Christ.
It's like, F you guys. Like this. Hey, remember that What If cartoon with Captain Carter?
Yeah.
Well, she's here too for like a biscuit minute, but she's not the same one. Like, I don't give a crap about What If. I think What If is a waste of time. Don't give me what ifs anymore. I didn't watch them anyway, but I've always thought mirror universes and what ifs and all that kind of stuff. This is just like, at the end of each one, you wake up from a damn dream. It's stupid.
Yeah. So basically, I think it's kind of over. I don't care. Look, I'm probably, because of the channel, I'm gonna review. I think I'm gonna make a stand here. Just I'll review Thor: Love and Thunder thing because it's this year. I think I might actually review it. Go see it, review it for the show. I got a buddy of mine that I go to all these movies with. Because he's not, I might do that, and then after that, I don't think there's anything I'm going to bother to review. What else is even coming into theater this year?
Yeah, the last one I'm holding out for is I'm walking into Thor: Love and Thunder with no
looks
hope,
terrible.
No hope whatsoever. Bad. And then I would like to give Ant-Man 3 its chance.
When is that coming? What else is coming out besides Thor: Love and Thunder? Is that one or what's next? I don't know what's after it.
I know Quantum Mania is after Thor, but Black Panther is at the end of the year. So Black Panther 2.
Yeah. Without Chadwick in there, and they're going to put Submariner in there, which almost interests me. But I mean, I don't know. I might just not even go to the theater to see that. I didn't go to the theater to see Shang-Chi or Black Widow or.
Oh yeah, I didn't either.
I did go see Eternals, but I had to see it because I was reviewing it that night. But I don't. Yeah, I don't know if I'll keep going, but I mean, I'll probably go see Thor to see what happens with that. But again, this is the problem. When you're even saying it like that, when you're going, I guess I'll go see. That's not good. When you go, wow, hey, they're doing another so-and-so movie. I can't wait to see that. I'm looking forward to seeing that. And when that's gone, it's a damn shame.
Yeah.
But it's a damn shame. It just is. So
it really is. It really is.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, man. Any closing thoughts you may have about the MCU? We'll get you out of here because I kept you for a long time tonight.
My closing thoughts are that it was a Herculean cinematic achievement, and as problematic as some of Avengers Endgame turned out to be, it could have been a whole lot worse. And it actually, I'd say it. 70% of it crossed the finish line with a respectable result, and that's all you can ask for out of a 20-film, decade-long super story.
Right.
And everything after that, it's you just
meaningless.
You just kind of hope that they. I think the mistake they're making is that they expertly or nearly expertly took all these different parallel running movie franchises and deliberately planned to have them all funnel down into this one singularity, this one moment known as the Infinity War. And then after that, what they should have done is let them all spread out again and let them all reset and develop again before the next singularity. But now they've decided that every movie is going to have them all spun up all around each other all the time. And it's like, I'm sorry, but you got to let these characters breathe. That's the only way that you get people invested in them and care. And they're not doing that. They're keeping them all tightly wound like one of Spider-Man's web lines. And it's just, they need to loosen it up again.
Yeah, buddy, I'm with you there, man. Man, dude, it goes by too fast when I'm hanging out with you. I know I kept you late, and I'm sorry about that, brother. But I'm not sorry that I got to hang out with you, man, because I miss
It's it's
hanging
fine.
with you, buddy.
There's nothing going on for me tomorrow that I can deal with. They're pressure washing the damn house tomorrow, so
Oh Lord,
I
I hear
can't
you.
film anything because it's going to be noisy as hell. So
Noisy. Well, I'll
yeah,
tell you what, we had a lot of great people who showed up here tonight in the chat. So many of you, I couldn't even name you all. I will sing out KBA for a second. Thank you for that, and I love your avatar because he's got the great Robert E. Howard, Two Gun Bob there. He's got Conan creator Robert Howard on this server. That's pretty cool. But it's great to see all of you. So many of my great friends and many of yours popped in tonight. Please, anyone, if you have not already subscribed to the channel, I would ask you to please subscribe and hit like, or you can dislike. I mean, if you dislike it, be honest. That's okay too. I'll respect that. I can respect that. But I thank you all for being here tonight. Quick show notes, and we will get out of here. Tomorrow night, Clobby's Clubhouse with my wonderful first officer Raquel and our great chief engineer, the great Mark D with the C. We always have a fantastic time hanging out, and it is a lot of fun. We'll be talking a lot of we talk Trek, we talk toys, we talk 3D printing by Mark D, and we talk about all kind of other cool stuff. Just we geek out. It's like us hanging out with you. And also then this Saturday night Star Trek. Any of you new here that are Star Trek fans, perhaps? We have 4 new episodes this week. Or 4 episodes, not new, it's Next Generation. We're reviewing all of real Star Trek. 66 through 05 only, 735 segments in all, if you count them all up. The 735 Club. And we are gonna it's gonna take some years, but we're getting there. We're just in the starting season 7 of TNG, and it's a ride, all right. So I want to thank you all for joining us here tonight. I really appreciate it. I want to say a thank you, a special thank you to my great guest and great friend, RetroBlasting. Anybody, of course, if you've not subbed to RetroBlasting, I don't know what you're doing with your life. Of course, everyone here probably has. Thank you, Eric K, for putting that up. It's always in my description below, the RetroBlasting channel. But thank you for putting that up there, Eric. You're too kind, buddy. Thank you all so much, Michael, dude. I got to think of an excuse to get you back sooner, man. But again, I know you're busy a lot.
No, I feel bad. I'm trying to clear my docket so that we can do the shadow.
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm all over that.
Yeah.
I can't wait. But just, I mean, I'm trying to think of what, and I'll bug you about it. I'll bug you, but I don't want to bug you too much. So I always like to wait till I have something good to bug you with. Like, hey, let's do, what about this topic? What about that topic? And I knew that I see that you've been, looking down the Marvel universe a bit. I remember we did this about a year ago, and I just thought you might have some stuff to say again about it. So I know everyone that we just kind of went back and did something similar to last year with the list, but we had to update it a little bit and change it around. And it's always fun talking about this stuff, especially with Michael. So
I just always love hanging with you, man.
I appreciate that, bro. We've done there are a couple of older topics that we did in the old days that we should try to bring back or something like that, but we'll figure that out.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much. I hope to see you here tomorrow night. I will play out with these important messages and have a wonderful rest of your night and a great tomorrow. Thank you so much, my friends. Take care.